I have a lot to cover in this rant, so let's not waste time with a lot of extra framing. A literal New World Order is being put in place right now. It has taken decades to create, and very powerful people are moving the final pieces across the board. This is not an exaggeration or panic-inducing statement being made by a garden-variety conspiracy nut. If the NWO stays the course and creates no extra chaos, they can transform this country, and others to follow, in 3 moves. 4 if they want to make a statement, 5 if they want to be flashy or greedy. Time will tell. I'm going to give you the next 3 moves and what to expect moving forward from now into the next year. This is not because I snuck out some classified documents while working at an Illuminati think tank. It's based on everything I have researched and absorbed from history and media so far, and it is also what I would do if I were an agent. So pay attention. One way or another, this will affect you. My biggest qualifier for a conspiracy is the inability to improve upon any given plan. The moves that the Order have made so far and what they foreshadow are, from what I can see, nearly perfect. I consider myself a very clever person, and looking at the end goal, I can see no other options. It's like being in check during chess. When you're in it, your responses become very limited. Please keep in mind that everything you have seen on the news so far is just to tick off compliance boxes. This is not about a virus. The virus story was just to give them a reason to ask you to wear a mask. The masks were just to see if you would suffer an inconvenience. You were restricted to see what you would do if just your basic needs were met, and most of the country adjusted without much incident, or so you thought. It's the second week of July 2020. The next move will roll out slowly over several months. It will not be decisive, more of a precursor to the main event. Several companies will come forward touting a vaccine, and the antibody success rate will eventually approach 99%, if not 99.9%. The short version is that the first move will be the vaccine light at the end of the tunnel. It's a promise, a savior, a release from the self-imposed lockdown. Medical doctors will vouch for it, and the government will announce that when it comes, it will be free and widely available. Although there will be some debate over who gets it first. But this is only the first step, that it's coming soon and we'll all be saved. The second move is a massive corporate celebrity and media endorsement, because with the vaccine, your life will return to normal. All the luxuries that have been stripped away from you for months will be liberated, announcing that everything will be reinstated if you take the injection. This second move is by far the most important for the general public. Announcing a successful antibody vaccine in advance gives people hope. But the endorsements validate and realize it, making it tangible. You can almost taste the freedom. Every corporation that has been partially shut down will embrace the coming vaccine, because they now have the chance to generate maximum revenue again. And the companies that produce the goods and services you want the most, they will be the loudest. This will include the NFL, NBA, baseball, movie theaters, concerts, museums, conventions, conferences, casinos, etc. Any form of escapism that you once subscribed to will now be available to you once again. And all these wonderful distractions that you loved, cherished, and worshipped will be waiting for you. At a nominal cost, of course. The media will then launch a pro-injection campaign blitz like you have never seen. Every day will be stories of hope and a return to normalcy as institution after institution climbs on board the vaccine train. The kids will be able to go back to elementary, middle, high school, and universities. The beaches and all parks will become unrestricted again. You will be able to travel domestically without checkpoints, and internationally, well, we will get to that. People will be excited again, optimistic about getting their life back and the future. And this is the name of the prize they will dangle in front of you, your life back. Everything that has been kept from you will now be returned for a small and very reasonable
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Really Woke Show with myself, Really Woke Roxanne, my awesome co-host, Really Woke Jim, and right beside us there is Sleeping Warrior. And tonight, for all of your viewing and audio pleasure, we have the awesome, the amazing Mr. Mark Sargent. Can you hear the crowd? Can you hear the crowd?
Oh, you're killing me. How am I supposed to live
Thank you
up to
so much.
that?
Hey, listen, this guy is a living legend. If you have no idea who Mark Sargent is, tonight, my darlings, you are going to find out. I know who he is. Sleeping Warrior, you know who he is, right?
Met him once before.
Yeah, you met him. I met him once. I've met him a couple times. I can claim to meeting him a couple times. All of you in the chat room, thank you so much for joining us as well. Whether you're joining us on the website, on YouTube or Facebook, we appreciate you taking the time out to be with us here this evening as we delve into more than a few red pills. You're going to have to buckle up and brace yourself tonight. Cognitive dissonance could be rife amongst some of you tonight. A lot of you may bury your head in the swimming pool of cognitive dissonance and switch off. And that's okay too. That's fine. You might not be ready for some of these conversations that we're going to have this evening. But if some of you are, then please tell your counterparts in the chat room to stay put and stay where they are, because we're going to delve into a lot of it tonight. Sleeping Warrior, Jimmy, Mark, I think we should start with giving everyone a little bit of a background of who you are, because there may be some people in the chat room, they're like, Mark Sargent, who's this bloke Mark Sargent? Who was that guy ranting on at the beginning? That video was in July, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You've got an opinion on this, but obviously you've done quite a lot more than just rant back in July. Could you tell the viewers what's your name, where'd you come from, what you're all about?
All right. My name is Mark Sargent, and I am currently the freshman recruiter for the Flat Earth community. I've been doing this since 2015. I first looked into Flat Earth in 2014, the summer, thought it was the stupidest thing ever, ridiculous, silly, insane, and thought I would disprove it. I thought I would prove the globe in a court of law. And 9 months later, I was banging my head on the keyboard, thinking, what have I done? I've screwed myself up forever. So I made a series of videos called Flat Earth Clues. I put them out on the internet, and I said, Internet Hive Mind, you are very, very smart and clever. So please tell me where I went wrong. And instead of going wrong, I had a whole bunch of people I know. We'll talk about that in a little bit. A whole bunch of people call me up and say, no, you're not wrong. Here's why. And it just started blossoming into a whole bunch of other avenues, to where by the time 2016 rolled around, we started getting a whole bunch of mainstream coverage. And over the last 5 years, he's allowed me to do things I never ever thought was possible. I mean, the Netflix documentary, for one. You know, we shot a documentary in 2017, which was released in 2018 to a bunch of film festivals, and then Netflix and Amazon and everybody picked it up, and called Behind the Curve, which, love it or hate it, it generated a huge amount of interest for the community. I mean, I got probably half of my interviews through that damn movie. And since the virus locked down people, it started trending again because more people were home. Last year I did public speaking things in 7 countries. We had conferences all over the place. I did a commercial in Australia, which, again, love it or hate it, it was done because we had Flat Earth members in the company that were down there in Melbourne, which I'll probably never see again because of the coming vaccine authentication stuff. And yeah, it's been amazing. Again, and I had no intention. If I live long enough to write an autobiography, cross your fingers, knock on wood, it'll be called Unsolicited, because I never had to pick up a phone. People just started calling me and saying, let's talk more about this. Let's talk more about this. And like, okay, sure. I did like 3 interviews this week so far, which is incredible. So yeah, that's what I do. Short version for people. I imagine everyone's listening to the show kind of knows about Flat Earth a little bit. Yeah. All right. Well, if they don't, what I believe is that we are not living on a tiny little silly rock covered in water and smoke flying through an impossibly huge universe that doesn't make any sense. You are living in a building with walls and a floor and a ceiling. And it was built a long time ago by people or a thing that was much, much older and more advanced than us. And we didn't even figure it out for ourselves. Our best and brightest didn't figure it out till about 1960. And when they did, they decided to keep it a secret. and that's what's led me down. But I have an opinion, just so you guys know. And again, we can go into this. I hate rambling too much because I know we're a little pressed for time. Which is the reason I got into flat Earth is because I was bored with just about every other conspiracy you could think of. I have an opinion on every conspiracy you could think of, known to man. And I only got into flat Earth because I've seen it, done it. What is there left? So that's why I got into it. So in fact, I did an interview just 3 days ago where almost all the questions were about JFK. It's okay. Yeah, let's talk about JFK. I'm happy to do it.
Wow.
There you go.
This is what I love about you, Mark. You are like the Technicolor dream coat of red pills.
I know that reference.
I love it. I love it. And there's a lot of people in the chat room already that have said they're very excited for this one. Very pleased to see you on the show. There are some flat earthers in the chat room as well. Shout out to Liana and shout out to Faisal, Goddess Nut, Sean Pierce as well, Israel Adams, Bret Hart as well. Faisal as well. We've got Katie. Gang. Hello, my darling. Woke Realist as well.
Dean
Sunsets. Yep, Dean HD as well. Juan Torres as well. Really, really excited individuals in the chat room, Mark. So I can't wait to get stuck into this.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because I'm quite new to all this myself. I'm not new to a lot of topics, but this is one that I see a lot of sense in what I have been told, but I don't know the ins and outs. So I know I don't trust the narrative in a lot of ways of life, if you will.
Right.
But I'm open to all suggestions, so I'm looking forward to it.
Right on.
Well, Jimmy, the thing is, Jimmy, you realize that 9/11 didn't go down the way we were told, right?
Yeah, of course. I knew that when I was a kid. And you
realize that
my dad told me they buried him out at sea. I was like, yeah, have a day off, Dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I probably have one, Dad. Like,
you realize that we didn't go to the moon, right?
Yeah, I worked that out when not as young, but I did have my suspicions about that. And since finding out that none of the NASA photos are even real, I've got even more suspicions. So
yeah, he started to realize the lies.
Yeah, and
have you realized that
informed me a lot about that? So I'm quite new to that topic and these type of topics. I'm more advanced than others, but aren't we all? You know what I mean?
He's got me in his ear all the time as well, guys.
Yeah, I'm not even claiming that I claim it to be anything. I just don't believe what I'm being told. So,
yeah, I agree. Jimmy, do you realize that it wasn't the Titanic that hit an iceberg and sank? It was the Olympic. Have you sussed that one?
I haven't looked into that one at all.
That's my favorite British conspiracy, by the way, or UK conspiracy is the Titanic.
Yeah. So back in 2016, when I was researching the pyramids, I kept seeing this video coming up in the side corner saying something about flat Earth, and I was like, I'm not looking into that. That's ridiculous. Anyway, one of the videos, I think it was the first one I ever watched, was Mark's videos, one of the flat Earth clues, but it had been condensed together in one big 45-minute or 55-minute video. Yeah. And basically this bloke starts talking about what happens if you realize that you're inside some kind of enclosure. Now, at first I was like, yeah, you're naturally going to do that, aren't you? And I started listening, and then I finished watching that, and I started wondering, maybe he's got a point there. What's this? And I saw another video that was 200 proofs that we're not living on a spinning globe. So I thought he only needs to get one of them right, and then we're not on a ball. So I watched the 200 proofs, and at the end of them 2 videos, I just thought, I need to look into this. This sounds so far-fetched that there's too much in it and far-fetched for me to ignore it. So I started binge watching for the next 3 months. I watched everything I could find that was to do with the topic to see what people were saying. And the more I started to look into it, the more I realized that there was a conversation. And then one day I found that there was live shows on. And then I found my way into the likes of Nathan Oakley's show and a few other shows that were literally talking about it there and then that day. And I didn't even realize it was a live conversation. I thought this thing was historic. Did not realize that there was a current conversation. So obviously you start finding your way around and feeling where you need to be, and start talking to people and asking the usual questions. And ultimately, the guy sat below me, Mark Sargent, was one of the first videos that most of us watched, and it was the one that made me think that there was an actual topic here. And it was just the way he spoke about it. It made me think. And then I started thinking a bit more And I'll be honest, for a while, maybe 6 months, I toyed one side, then went the other, then toyed back again, then went to the other. And I was very much on the fence for a while. I didn't have a eureka moment where I just thought, yeah, it's not a ball. I needed a lot more evidence, a lot more persuasion to convince myself that it might not be a ball. Now, that doesn't mean I know that it's flat. It doesn't mean that I know that what it is. I don't know what it is. But I do realize that we're breathing gas pressure, and you can't have gas pressure without a container, and we can't be in space. Space can't be a vacuum. I realized that Einstein defined gravity as an effect, and whether or not gravity exists, either Einstein's wrong or there's no such thing as gravity. Either way, it's not the official story, and I don't know what's really going on, but I do know what's not going on. So I'm quite happy saying I don't know what we're living on, and I'm all right with that. But Mark was one of the first videos that I watched where I really gave it any like serious time, and then that was back in 2016, and then I don't know, it got to 2017, and then I started throwing my weight around a little bit, realized that we're not on a spinning ball, and then the rest is kind of history. But then something called coronavirus kicked up about March this year and totally knocked me off my perch, because I just thought they're going to end up shafting us here. So like I've very much put flat earth onto the back burner, because I realized that our civil liberties, our freedom to disagree with each other are being put in jeopardy. And that's more fundamental to me, because I think that even though I might not agree with Roxanne or Nathan on everything that they say, I think that the ability to disagree is paramount to a healthy society. Because if you can't disagree because reasons is illegal or whatever, that's a bad day for normal civilization. And I think that we've got to realize that they're trying to take away our freedoms and stop us from doing the things that are what we call our liberties. And it's obvious that they're trying to do it. I was watching a video today on Amazon about robots in an Amazon warehouse somewhere in China, and they were literally making sure that you kept your 2 meter distance. Robots were doing it. And I was like, no way, they're trying to make us into the bloody robots. That's what's happening. They're trying to force us into an autonomous state. And it's frightening.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I think this is where we are with it. I think there's a lot of us that have gone down pursuits of truth, Mark, and we found ourselves going out, down rabbit holes that we find ourselves, sitting there for weeks or months trying to debunk, and then we realize, okay, there's no going back with that. And I'll agree with you on this one, Murray. I think this year has gone away so much so that even if you do know you're not on a spinning ball, even if you do know that the moon landings were faked, even if you do know that there's no evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core or any evidence of any rockets or satellites in space either, that the lockdown has happened, our civil liberties and our human rights have all been affected, all underneath our noses.
Right.
How has that been for you, Mark? Because you've done an incredible amount of activism, TV interviews, conventions, speaking at public events. I enjoyed watching your speech at Kidderminster last year as well.
Thanks.
A lot of people resonated with that. Who would have known that within 6 months of those events and the tours going down that we would have been stopped? Because I think if I'm right, I think I can confidently say if the lockdown hadn't happened, the tour was happening in America, whether anyone liked it or not. Shout out to Richie from Boston. Richie from Boston even got in contact and said, count me in. I knew what time it was when I heard Richie from Boston saying, I'm in, count me into the tour. And then we all looked left and right. And then before you know it, lockdown, international, everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh?
The last thing I did was the last 2 things I did were in the UK. As you know, I mean, I went out and did the conference, and then I got flown back out almost immediately for the Philip and Holly thing on a morning show. And then I come back, and I was going to go out again. There was somebody had seen me on Philip and Holly, and they said, oh yeah, you guys have apparently something called a pancake day.
Yeah,
out there. Yeah. Is that a thing out there? Yeah, pancake day. And they said, oh, that'd be a great flat earth tie-in. We've got you, McDonald's wants to do a thing over there with you. It's like, we're going to fly you back for a McDonald's commercial in order to promote pancake day. We'll do a flat earth tie-in. I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I'm all for it. And the next thing you know, that was it. The curtain just dropped on international travel, and no one was doing anything. And at that point, I started doing rants on on the virus specifically, and it has been really, really difficult. You guys don't really know because you're not over here, but in the UK and Europe, I mean, at least you guys, I'm so happy that you guys are protesting the lockdowns and going out in the street and trying to do something. Because over here, and I apologize to any Americans that are watching this, look, you might as well put a fork in us. We fell for misdirection, and we bought it absolutely hook, line, and sinker, which means we were so distracted by other stuff that no one went out and really protested, because it was like, oh wow, there's all these other things happening. The first thing was BLM. They had running for months when the weather started getting good, and it was, even if you wanted to organize a protest, how could you do it? Because the cities, there may be already a BLM protest happening. You don't want to be in the middle of that. I mean, Lord knows those things didn't look peaceful. And then, like clockwork, the second the weather started going away, because people don't like protesting in bad weather over here. We are fair weather protesters. If it's sunny, yeah, we're out there. It's like rain, I don't know. We just don't do it. So we, as soon as the weather started turning bad, it went to the election. And that's what carried out the rest of the year. And quietly, they shut down all the businesses. Main Street, I don't know what it's like over there, but main streets in just about every town are just boarded up with chain link fences. And that's, I mean, people just, they turned the screws and turned up the pressure and starved people out. And now we're rolling into, and I don't want to drag this out too much because I know you have other things you want to talk about, but now we're running into a situation where, as you know, the reason I'm doing my rant early on the vaccine is like, look, vaccine's here. It's here. And no one on the media on our side is like, no, they're never going to have something by December. And it's like, nope, it's happening. UK, Mexico, Russia, United States, vaccine's here. We're doing it. We're rolling it out now. I mean, I think you guys actually had the #1 person in the world, the first person in the world, some 90-year-old woman in a wheelchair. That was like
there's a lot of speculation.
Oh no, wait, hold on. Yeah, there's very much speculation on this, Mark. We've got to make disclaimer time, Jim.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation.
Did you see the hand signal that she was doing?
Yeah, I did.
And forget about that. We've seen in a lot of separate reports that she was 90 in one report, 70 in another report, or something.
102 in one.
102. And there's been a picture of her. It's apparently her Trafalgar Square protest getting pushed over by the police. So,
oh no way, that same old woman.
It's the same old girl, mate. It's the same old girl.
My point.
I can't be 100% verified for that, but I've seen the photo and it doesn't look like her.
It wouldn't matter anyway, because in the end, and I can't stress this enough, it was never about the masks, and it wasn't even about the vaccine. It was about, because masks and vaccine, that's commonplace. People in China, in Asia have been wearing masks for years, and vaccines, tons of vaccines all over the place. No, it's about what's something that's brand new, which is an authentication system tied to the vaccine. And I have been saying this for months and months and months, was like, look, this vaccine is absolutely worthless without an authentication system. And that has never been done before, which is you have to have, it's not enough that you get the vaccine, you have to have proof that you got the vaccine. And once they can standardize that, and over here, they're already doing local databases, which is tied to a CDC national database, which full well is going to be tied to an international WHO database. And once that's in place, you can use that for everything. And our guy over here, we are not shy about it. The hospital has already said, you're not going to be able to get into a hospital without this, without the pass. We'll just call it the pass. I don't care what name it goes by.
ID 2020, is this what it is?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get into any sporting events, the opera, any arena of any kind. You're not going to be able to do. Schools, your kids aren't going to be able to go. And international travel, no. And then after that, you've got they will roll out fairly quickly. The rest will fall like dominoes. It'll be retail, grocery, and there was one other I had in my rant. Doesn't really matter, but that was basically it. And at that point, you can't control the population. So good to the truth community that you guys are on board. Anyone outside the truth community right now, you're screwed. Go ahead.
So, given what you've just said, does that? I mean, I was brought up as a Christian. My mum and dad were both like Church of England. So I'm aware of the tribulation and the prophecies that are in Book of Revelation.
Yeah.
Is it being perceived by the Christian faith as the mark of the beast?
That is an excellent question. As a matter of fact, my rant is literally called the next rant, which I'm doing, which I consider to be probably my most important, which I'm making sure I'm really careful in the verbiage. Except for the title, I call it the put up, shut up moment of 2021. And it's mostly for the Christian community. You're absolutely right. And I literally in it, I am reading it doesn't take that long. I'm reading all of Revelation 13 and all of Revelation 14. Revelation 13, which everyone knows about. If you haven't, you've been living in a cave since you were born, which says that, oh yeah, by the way, there could be this system coming down the road where if you have to buy or sell, you have to take this mark, which is known as the mark of the beast. And everyone, the beast number is 666. Everybody knows that. It's been in movies and television shows and stuff forever. And up until now, people thought that was logistically very, very tough to do because you're never going to get people to sign on for that, not voluntarily, unless you hit it in the middle of something like a major health crisis. Then you could do that. And then Revelation 14, which is the part that everybody misses, we'll get into what the church expects from this. The Revelation 14 says that, oh yeah, by the way, if you take this mark, God shows no mercy whatsoever, because you're basically going against, and people say, well, why? It's because you're going against the first commandment, which is you shall not have any other gods. That's it. And if you bend the knee, which is what this vaccine or the authentication system is, you're bending the knee to get these things, these conveniences. You're paying allegiance to whatever this system is. And so, yeah, you'd think, again, it's so clever. The plan was so well thought out. And that is, you would think that the churches would have immediately braced against it. Yeah, they would have, if you were allowed to go to church. And you can't go to church here. So you shut down the congregations, basically, and then you roll them in and say, oh, well, you can let them come back at 25% capacity. And I mean, there's churches even here. I live on a rural island where you have to make reservations to go to church. Like a restaurant, and they will only let so many people in, and you're there, and not only you're in there, you have to wear masks. No singing is allowed because they said that singing is part of the way it spreads. And it's like, oh my God. So the churches, they can't band together. So now we've got these weird underground churches that are forming. People are doing Bible studies and underground churches here off the grid because it's like, screw that. And I know that some churches are going through with the lockdown stuff because of, and you'll hear this over and over again, corporate liability. It's the reason why football places have shut down, and all the, you have corporate liability, which is corporate lawyers have kicked in and they've said, the management says, can we get sued if someone claims they got the virus from going to our event or arena? Can we get sued? And every corporate lawyer is going to say that, yeah, you can get sued. And so that's it. It's like, well, can't go. And that applies to everybody. So yeah, the churches should push back. And yes, do I consider this the mark of the beast system? Yeah, I do. Why wouldn't I? It's if it isn't, I don't know what would be. I mean, because we're getting to the point. I mean, what more do you want? It has been something that the Christian community, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tear here, but
right.
it is something people like it when I rant, apparently, for some reason.
We do love a good Mark rant.
Which is this. It's like, look, for decades and decades, pastors have been saying there'll be a time where you won't be able to go to the grocery store without showing this, right? And it's like, but it won't happen in your lifetime. And to get to your point, Anthony, the whole tribulation. This is the part that just blindsided everybody. And you won't see the blindsided in the church community until later, which is no one paid any attention to it because the tribulation was supposed to come after the rapture. That was the timeline. That's what they always said. It's like, oh yeah, these horrible things, the tribulation that Christians will have to go through. You won't have to worry about though, because there's the rapture, right? These awful, awful things. No, don't worry. You're fine. You're fine. It'll all happen beforehand. I always question this since I was a kid. It's like, yeah, what if you're wrong about that timeline? What if that's not the case? There was no backup plan. There was no contingency for that. And so now all of a sudden, so now you're going to have a whole bunch of Christians that say, well, it's obvious that can't happen until later, so that can't be it. And I'm coming back and say, what more do you want? Because it's not going to be years. It's not going to be years. It's going to be months. And that is, I guarantee this. I will bet folding money on this. I'm not trying to be a downer when I say this. I'm trying to stress the importance of it, which is you will, in very short amount of time, because it'll be just a cascading domino effect, at least in the United States, I can't speak for the UK or Europe, that you will, when you go to a grocery store, you won't be able to check out unless you flash that thing on your phone. That's to start. Now, there may be a
That little
contingency to wear a mask.
freedom pass
So
to
go
go
ahead.
and be a citizen. And do you know what, Mark? I want to just bring up a really, really valid point while you just said that.
What?
You will not be able to do it unless you show your little pass.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember, I don't know, this time last year when we saw people in Hong Kong holding up banners saying, stand with us or you'll end up going to be us in a minute. They were all stood in masks. And there was, I think at the time, there was reports of absolute tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that because of the social credit system over there, they were being prevented from traveling on trains within their own country. They were being prevented from going and seeing family on internal flights. And we're talking about contributive members of society that had jobs that were paying their way, but due to the social credit score of them not doing as they were told, they were then down pedaled on the social credit system, going to buy. So the equivalent would be like me going and getting on a train to Manchester and me getting to the train station and trying to pay for my ticket. And they go, sorry, the computer says no. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, they're taking money out your benefits.
Why not?
Just
Just because
Crazy.
not enough points. It's going to be like Black Mirror, where you've got people like exchanging deals in the elevators going, well, go and nice me up and give me a little 2 stars. Why? Because I need to go and see my mum at the weekend.
Yeah. Can I mention that real quick? That Black Mirror episode, and I can't remember the title of it, which I think it was nominated for an award because it had it was one with Bryce Dallas Howard in it. That was chilling how close it was to where we are headed. It
was even chilling about what was going on in Hong Kong at the time, because that's what they were actually living through. Meanwhile, we're watching and going, oh, imagine if. And then we're looking at people in Hong Kong with like lasers and stuff trying to go, can you hear us? Because we're about to get shut down. Yeah. And then Corona. And then where did they all go? Where did all those protesters go?
One more thing I'd like to mention about that is, because I don't want to make it sound like it's, well, doom is inevitable, you're screwed. There will be this transition phase where, ironically enough, where the masks that we made fun of on people, it's like, why are you wearing a mask? That flips on you to where, because once you get the vaccine, once you don't have to wear the mask anymore. So what they will do is they'll say, oh, no, you can still go to the grocery store, but you have to wear a mask. So now the mask of, of compliance now becomes the mask of shame instantly. And that is a really, and people don't get why that's important. Peer pressure is a very, very big, I can't speak for what's happening over there, but peer pressure is a massive, massive thing over here. When we were in the stores, and I saw this in the stores, which was when you hit about 7 or 8 out of 10 people, let's say 7 out of 10 people wearing masks, all of a sudden, everybody was wearing masks. And that was because people want to fit in. I know, like you and me and, a lot of people in the truth community, we're creative people. We like to stand out, and make a difference. But for most of the population, they just want to fit in. They don't want to be hassled. They don't want. It's like, look, and I talk to people. It's Richie from Boston was a great example. He talked to people. It's like, why are you wearing the mask? Like, it's just easier. I don't want to get any grief from people. But that's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a powerful, powerful thing for people.
So the back of the right hand or the forehead was traditionally referred to as where the mark of the beast would be. Where does that fit into it?
No. As a matter of fact, I was reading. Hang on, I got it right in front of me right here. So I initially thought it's like, because nobody wants a tattoo. Very few. I know. I think all you guys have tattoos, but there's a lot of people that don't have tattoos, and and you say, well, you're not going to get people to get tattoos. Like, no, you just do infrared or ultraviolet. The club tattoos. They're absolutely invisible if you even want to do that. However, if you look, it's not just the mark on the hand. It is. Hang on 1 second. It is 1 second. Where is it? 1 sec. Oh yeah,
literally on the edge of my seat.
Okay, so here it is. So, and he caused all both great. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do chapter and verse here for 1 second. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. But then it says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So at that point, it's not just a tattoo. The tattoo thing would be eventual, that would be an evolution of it. But I think it goes beyond that. I do. I think it's just part of the global ID system, ID 2020. What Jimmy was saying.
Yeah, I think it's possibly this. We've heard about microchips in other countries. I think it possibly could be that.
Could be. It could be. However, there's still going to be, they're going to do a multi-pronged thing because some people aren't going to go for that. So you give them options. What we have learned through time is as long as you give people choices, they'll make a choice. Now, if you throw at something that's like, it's either this or nothing, then they kind of resist. They push back. But if you give them choices, it's like, okay, you can have the special app, or you can have a chip, or you can have a 3D 3D barcode infrared tattoo. You can do they'll give all sorts of options. What you're going to look for, though, is that they're all linked to the same database, which we can do now very, very, very easily. And that's what we're kind of.
It's pick your poison in it.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Great point. Pick your poison.
So, Mark, with the year going the way that it's gone so far,
right?
Could I maybe get you to pluck your top 3 things that there's a lot of people we've spoken to this year that have gone through warp speed in waking up. We spoke to the lovely Ruby, just a year older than my daughter is now. And her mum woke her up at the beginning of lockdown. You're going to love this. She's 19 years old. Her mum says, yeah, come. You've got to say his name. You've got to say David Icky.
David Icky.
Good old David Icky, as he says. David Icky.
It's what my dad called me. You'd love it. Because at the start of this, I had a broken back. And I wasn't, when my back started getting a bit better, my dad was like, you ain't David Icky. You got to go to work, mate. You know what I mean? He's trying to get me back working because it's quite a lot to take on, just starting all this stuff. We're forming groups. It takes up a lot of energy. We're doing protesting and all that. I was not physically fit either, really. So it come to a point where he's like, you ain't David Icky, mate. You need to go to work. Who's going to pay you? You know what I mean? You need to earn some money. And,
so that was it. We were talking to Ruby, and Ruby said that at the beginning of the lockdown, her mum said, come downstairs. I've got something to show you. And it was a David Icky. I've got to say Icky now because of you.
I've never heard anyone say pronounce it like that ever. Of course, last night I just learned how to pronounce that one British actor. He's got the most screwed up name ever. Chiwetel Ejiofor. Am I a black British actor? You guys don't know him? Black British actor? Nope.
Maybe we know him by face, not by name.
That's just it. That's just it. Nobody knows it by that name. Everyone knows. I will flash you the face on here. You go,
oh, like, oh, him, matey. Oh, matey. Matey, innit? It'll be matey.
Yeah, people, no, seriously, you see him listed in the credits. I'm going, and every time for years, I'm like, what? It's like I had no idea. I will flash it to her. Anyway, go ahead. What was your question?
But yeah, there's a lot of people that, like Ruby, have woken up this year really, really quickly. At the start of lockdown, Ruby started delving into her pursuit of truth, and she's gone at literally warp speed over the last 6 to 8 months. So I would say to you, Mark, for all the audience listening, whether the audience have been looking into truths for a long time or they've been on a warp speed journey of this year, what would your top 3 things that you would say someone must look into? If they're on their pursuit of truth and they're primitively, new to all of this, what would you say the top 3 things they need to research and become well versed on and know that it's, a self-evident truth?
3 truths you should look into. Ooh, that is a tough one. Okay, well, first and foremost, obviously the big one would be flat Earth, just because it opens everything else up. If you can, and I have seen this too many times not to mention it. People's like, no, you're pushing flat Earth because you like flat Earth and you're trying to sell books. It's like, no, it's flat Earth is the biggest conspiracy out there. In fact, I had 9/11 guys that got mad. By the way, I put the link to the IMDb guy who I'm talking about right there in the chat. I had 9/11 guys get angry at me because up until flat Earth, they thought that 9/11 was the pinnacle of all conspiracies. And they said, well, flat Earth, you're just making people look bad. And it's like, no, it's bigger. It's physically bigger. It's the whole world. So if you can get your head around the flat Earth concept, I mean, then that's what you should absolutely look into first. Because once you get that, you'll be able to get anything. There he is. Chiwetel Ejiofor. You've seen, you know this guy, right? right? You guys know this guy? You guys are nodding. You're not saying anything.
No, I was. I thought I was on mute. Yeah, I recognize that face.
Yeah,
Whoops,
I do have a
sorry,
question.
yeah. Great British actor. No one knows. No one knows how to pronounce his name. Hey, go ahead.
Go for it.
We're in a weird paradox at the minute with regards to the media, mainstream media, because to find out what's going on in our country, we've actually got to tune into Australian mainstream media, who are genuinely covering what's going on in England. Our own mainstream media is not covering all the protesting. It's like, it's as if it's not even happening. Are you finding anything weird with regards to the media in your?
Oh my God, are you kidding? The United States media is 90% left, and I'm pretty sure Fox has now crumbled. So a brand new media service, they're going to hold out for as long as they can. In America, if you're going to look at any media and you're not so far left that you're gone forever, I would look at Newsmax. That's what they would usually look. Everybody else is compromised, and that's how the election went. By the way, not that it matters who you voted for over here, because they both were going to promote the vaccines. It was all part of a distraction, but the media called the election. That's all they did. Everyone went to bed. It's like, it's undecided. We wake up the next morning. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, it was Biden and all these states that should have gone the other way. It's like, huh? It's like, what? But like when I go there, and I don't even, I'll say it anyway. Sometimes things get filtered out. People, the media or the powers that be, the agencies don't like me. The one I go to first is Godlike Productions. That is an old conspiracy site, an old forum post that's been around for years and years and years. Even the format looks like it's from the late 90s. I go there first just to see what's going on. After that, I go to RT, Russia Today, which seems like the weirdest thing ever to go to if you're in the United States. For Russia,
right? It's weird for us all, Mark. It's weird for us all saying we go to RT to go and see what's going on.
I'll watch that as
yeah,
well.
yeah, go to RT. Yeah,
Really?
they're not, and they've got an office based here in the United States, which is awesome. It's like great. And then after that, I will go to CNN just to see what they're putting out there. But I open up CNN, it's like, okay, what are you guys spinning now? Oh, fear. That's it.
Forewarned is forearmed, Mark. Forewarned is forearmed. I think we do have to see what the opposition,
You got to look.
Columns up to, because they're always up to hawky porky. They're always doing disinformation. That's their main policy, right?
And don't leave out the fact you got to know thine enemy, and that is, you got to understand what a lot of people are listening to. So if you understand, it's like, oh, I didn't hear that, you might as well go to the very, very mainstream stuff, just so you can see what your friends and family and other people are going to be talking about, because that's where it's coming from. But yeah,
we always watch stuff like that. We have to. We sit here and cringe, but you have to do your homework on what they're putting out there and what you're up against. Otherwise, you're just going into it blind. We could go and talk about. Otherwise, we wouldn't even know what to put on the show, really, if we didn't know what we're up against.
True, and it's very good to put side by sides up. I think when you've got an example of an exact, precise lie coming out of their mouth, and you can give a side by side infographic of how they've lied. And you can break it down a bit like how Russian Vince does.
It's not that difficult at the moment, because they're lying through their teeth in every way possible.
Right.
So it's quite easy to pull it apart just by body language or.
True.
Absolutely.
There's loads of ways to spot it.
The other two, Roxanne. So Flat Earth would be the one but if people can't do Flat Earth, this number two would be 9/11. Just because it was one of the first super modern conspiracies, meaning, it happened in 2001 as the internet was just starting to ramp up, and the internet grasped onto it, and it became, there was so many things done over it, and it is a great example of details that are missed. If you're going to pull an operation like that, it's big. It's a big operation. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make little mistakes that the internet hive mind is going to pick up on. And that's what
obviously
happened.
One of the biggest mistakes that they made was, if you're going to pull 3 buildings down, you need at least 3 planes. But for some reason, we only had 2.
Yes. Yeah. I shoot that conspiracy down, or shoot the debunkers down in 2 seconds. I try to boil everything down to a paragraph, and they say, oh, 9/11 was real. I go, really? Tell me about Building 7. Most Americans don't even know that Building 7 even happened. That 5 hours later, a 50-story building just, collapsed. It looked like it committed suicide. It was like,
and then when you play that video, when you play the Larry Silverstein video where he says they pulled it, and you just go, "What did he just say?" Well, that must be out of context, surely. And he's literally admitting it.
9/11, I used to joke about it 10 years ago, and I used to say it was one of the sloppiest operations I've ever seen. But the more you look into it, the more you realize the layers that were involved in this thing, to where now I'm going, wow, this took a lot of thought and a lot of time and a lot of different aspects, to where, even when you're looking at the directed energy weapon stuff, I mean, at the beginning, I'm like, because again, we believe the world that is presented to us. And when you saw the videos of the planes, those really short clips of planes going in, planes going in, planes going in, it's like, wow, the planes. And then somebody comes to you and says, yeah, there were no planes. And you're like, no, come on. I saw them. It was on TV. There were planes. And then you start doing the physics and you start doing the math and you're going, wait, those were aluminum wings traveling at subsonic speed into this reinforced steel structure. They were designed to withstand an airplane crash. And then, of course,
multiple.
You know all the arguments, right? It is a wonderful conspiracy to look at. I encourage everyone, because it goes deep. I mean, there's so many cool little rabbit holes to it. By the time you're done, again, we don't pick up the mistakes because we're not looking for them. But the reason why it's tough to do operations like that is because of places like moviemistakes.com. The internet tears apart everything. If you look at a movie and a coffee cup moves from here to here without the character moving it in a frame, in just one thing, you're gonna catch it. It's gonna be online forever, and that's what they did. They dissected 9/11 forever. The third one.
Titanic.
I'm going to use my own with the third one, which is someone I'm going to claim an exclusive on that. It's in the book that I wrote, which is it goes into the point of conspiracies in general, and I'm going to use the Panama Canal. That's my third conspiracy, and the reason why I bring it up is because it is the clinical definition. There you go. Thank you, Roxanne. Flat Earth Clues, end of the world. By the way, like the fact that I called it end of the world. I released it last year, and now it's kind of happening. So anyway, the Panama Canal, the reason why I think it's a clinical definition of a conspiracy is because people forget what conspiracies are. Everyone knows that thank you, Roxanne. People know that there are lies. This world is based off deception. There's lies in just about every aspect of out there you can think of. That people lie in business and politics and sports and entertainment, and yes, even journalism and science. It happens all the time. It's just this line of what you're willing to look at and what you're not willing to look at. It's this comfort zone. People know full well that there are conspiracies, but unless they're media sanctioned, did I put you in there?
Yeah, I never made the cuts. I didn't get in there, Mark. I'm gutted.
Dude, I couldn't put everybody in.
Nathan Oakley got in though.
Well, yes, but that's because he did that Vice interview and they didn't destroy him, which I was so happy about. Yeah, there's Nathan Oakley. And anyway, so here's the thing. We believe in conspiracies, but unless they're most people, aside from this audience here, unless they're media sanctioned, no one wants to hear it. So if they're media sanctioned, they don't even use the word conspiracy. They use the word scandal, or they use the word tragedy. So a scandal, scandals, and tragedy if somebody dies. And if it goes into conspiracies, that's what the media said. It's basically something that's happened outside of the media's stamp of approval. Panama Canal, great example. I'll throw it at you real fast, which is Panama Canal done by the Americans. Any engineering project, you're going to have accidents and fatalities. People fall off of things and trucks turn over and crap like that. How many people, we built these massive dams over here. One of them was the Hoover Dam. I think 70 people died in the making of the Hoover Dam. Panama Canal, which was basically just a big ditch that connected the Atlantic and Pacific. You know how many people died during the making of that thing? Better part of 6,000. 6,000 civilians died making the Panama Canal. Why? Because they died of malaria and yellow fever. And then people are like, well, mosquitoes kill people. It's like, no, they don't kill that many people. And the reason why it's a conspiracy is because someone will come back and is like, well, we didn't know they were going to die. It's like, oh, yeah, we did. We knew full well we were going to kill that many people. And we sent them anyway. The reason was because we didn't start the Panama Canal. The French did. French had all sorts of engineering projects. In fact, they lost so many people. They were down there and just dropping all over the place. They lost 23,000 people to where they were having riots in Paris. There's like, look, stop killing people, going into the jungle. So they left. They dropped their shovels and they went home. And the Americans like, hey, free shovels. Then they went down there and finished the whole damn thing. And they did, they invented mosquito netting and insect repellent. The point was, here's the conspiracy. A conspiracy, just by definition, is with 3 or more people conspire to do something that's either illegal or unethical. So in telling people when they're signing up for the Panama Canal, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's like a 1 in 8 chance you're going to die. You don't tell them that. You just don't. And there's the conspiracy. You lie to get your project done. Conspiracy is, the media is so hypocritical when they talk about conspiracies. Over here, I can't talk about your legal system, but over here we have conspiracy. It's built into our legal system, which is like, for example, if Anthony decides to rob a bank by himself, he would be charged with armed robbery. But if the 3 of you, Jimmy and Roxanne, you guys decide to rob a bank together, you get charged twice. You get armed robbery and conspiracy to commit armed robbery, which means that you robbed a bank as a group. So conspiracies, they're around all the time, and it's just what you're willing to look at and what you're not willing to look at. And that's why I try to stress to people. It's like, look, there are all conspiracies all around us. It's just your comfort zone. There's this imaginary line in the sand, and on this side, it's what it's safe to look at for you, and outside of that is the other stuff. And when you get into the truth community, that line kind of gets moved out and out and out into where most of the time it's gone. So that's why I picked Panama Canal. There you go.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
It's my rant.
I appreciate
One more
that.
question, then I promise.
I don't think so.
Go on.
What?
One more question, I promise. Normally, when there's a big news article going on in the news, I'm always wondering what else is going on in the background that we're not being told about, because there's some other distractive news article that we're now looking at instead.
Right.
Is it possible that Flat Earth or some other topic is being compromised by virtue of no one's now looking at it because we're all talking about coronavirus? Are we missing some? Is there a trick that we might be missing in the background?
No, here's what I think, because I've gotten asked that before in different ways. What I think, because you remember over here, especially in social media, Flat Earth was promoted. We were not stopped in any way, shape, or form. They did not stunt us enough for the first 3 years, 2015, 16, 17, even going into halfway through 18. We were promoted by YouTube nonstop. Just we were way up there, and it was obvious because it was recommended for you on the right hand side. There was a great line where they interviewed this European programmer. He's in a new documentary called part of the new documentary called The Social Dilemma. I highly recommend it. It's about how all the creators of social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook and all that they all of a sudden realized they created this Frankenstein monster. Anyway, they asked him, they said, why do things get recommended for you in YouTube? Why is that left? How do you do that? And out of all the topics, you probably heard me say this before, out of all the topics, there's thousands and thousands of topics on YouTube. He picks one. And he says, well, if the average person that gets into Flat Earth watches 20 videos in a row, what do you think we're going to recommend? So literally up until the summer of 2018, we were absolutely the binge topic on YouTube until we saturated everything. You got to remember, just about every channel, every major social media channel has done a Flat Earth video at this point. Everybody from PewDiePie all the way down to, channels that with less than 100 subscribers. They've done these videos because they just keep seeing these huge spikes. And it's like, oh, wow, we should talk about this. So I think, but to your question, Anthony, I think Flat Earth was put out there. I have not changed my mind about this. Flat Earth was put out there to open minds for bigger things or stranger things that people may have braced against beforehand. Meaning, Flat Earth opens your mind up so far that all of a sudden a crazy idea will come in, and normally you'd be like, it would scare the hell out of you. But now it's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm just going to roll with it. I mean, is it possible they used Flat Earth, by the way, to kind of soften, to, the military term, soften the target before they put in the virus?
I think that's a really interesting point. Very, very interesting point.
And someone in the chat room just said, "Is no one going to discuss that aliens are now being openly discussed?"
That is a point. A lot of mainstream media are now discussing alien
Yeah.
invasions and UFOs and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
You gotta.
Gibbs.
We tried that over in the States, not deliberately, I think. With the whole Roswell thing in 1947. And the newspapers, I mean, people were starting to freak out early. And this was back when, there was barely any television. It was mostly just radio and newspapers, and people were getting really twitchy because, science fiction wasn't really a thing. Think about it now, though, between all the different, I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are, from 8 to 80, you've got science fiction references tied to aliens. So everybody's got their expectation of what aliens could be. So it wouldn't be a shock. I even joked about, like if a giant golden spaceship landed in Paris, there'd be a whole bunch of people out there just dying to find out what they looked like. It's like, oh, wow, they are blue like Avatar. Go figure. They don't know, but they're looking forward to it. So, the alien thing.
Taking selfies, Mark, like for real. Like, yo, it's like Avatar. Cheese, smile.
Yeah. There would be people. Again, there wouldn't be this fear running around in the streets with your hands, screaming. That's not there anymore. I think that, the aliens thing is a great, granted, the Israeli guy that they were quoting, he was older, and we'll see. We'll see, but I've heard this stuff before. We've seen this for some time. Until a spaceship lands, I'm not going to give it too much credit yet. But again, but what's different now is with social media, you can gauge the temperature of people in real time. That's the brilliance of social media. It's that you can put an idea out there and let it go through the circles through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and whatever the hell kids are doing. And you can do the metrics in real time. It's like, all right, this is resonating. This isn't. It's huge, massive form of control. Again, watch The Social Dilemma. It's a great thing.
Yeah, this is true. I wanna bring up this image that we've got on the screen, because a lot of people have spoken to me about this at Speaker's Corner over the years that we've been there, talking about NASA being somewhat little bit of liars. So I'll just say it out here. NASA lies about a lot of things. I know that Dave Murphy's spoken about this. I know yourself, you've spoken about this. A lot of content makers have spoken about this. Russian Vids has done multiple videos on this said topic about the crew of Challenger. Could we delve into this while we still got you on the show?
Yeah, please go ahead.
How long can we still have you for? How long
you got me for 15, 17, maybe pushing 20 minutes.
Good. Right, I can do a couple of these then. So give us your take on the crew.
Okay, well, my take, and I'm going to find it really fast for you. Observations, miscellaneous. I wonder if it's under observations. I did a video on this. We went to, so it's absolutely true. These, remember, this was before the internet. This was in 86 when I just started university. It gives you an idea how old I am. All these guys here, right back, you don't kill. So like this, I don't want to mix too many things. All right, couple things. First off, if you do a disaster like this in 96, you don't have to kill the astronauts. You can just put them into witness relocation, because you don't know, the internet's not going to be for another 15 years. You don't know what the hell's coming down the pipe. So they put these people, a lot of them are professors or heads of companies and blah, blah, blah. The guy in the lower left-hand corner, the guy with the white hair, what's interesting about this is the pictures you're looking at. And unless you watch a lot of movies, you may or may not get this, is we're still not very good in movies about making people older. You try to
play that video after you go, because I know we don't have you on the video, but after you've left, I'm going to play that video because I've got it. I do have it lined up.
Where we went to that guy's house?
Are you talking about the video that you did? I'm talking about Mike Smith. It's like a 4-minute video.
The guy that turned up on the street in the snow.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, we went to that guy's house, and here's the part that I loved. When they went and talked to him, you know what he didn't say? This is people miss the most obvious things, and that is when it comes to alibis, the first thing you would want to do, because he's well old enough to understand the whole Challenger disaster, right? First thing you would do is, where were you in 1986? Nope, didn't offer that up. Never even hinted to where he was in 1986. That should have been the question he should have asked him in the snow, which was, hey, what were you doing in 1986? What he did say, though, in fact, he was even trying to compliment himself in that video. It just drove me nuts. And he also said that he's been accused of looking like him for years.
even when he was younger. It's like nobody knew what this guy looked like when he was younger. There was no internet. You know, it was like, well, all we knew was the child. I mean, up until this photo even came out, this little comparison right here, most people didn't even know what these guys looked like. All we knew is that they died.
Yeah.
Other little side things. I thought that the helmets that they were holding, those motorcycle helmets, it's just an offshoot. I thought those were just display helmets just for photographs. No, you could watch the videos. I've got these on my channel. They actually wore those damn things. Those are not pressurized helmets. They were wearing the helmets. You could see their bare necks, short sleeved shirts, no gloves. It's like, no, but it was the 80s. And I don't want to give an excuse too general like that, but we weren't paying much attention in the 80s.
I've got to ask you, you've just said then about helmets, right? I remember you gave a challenge out to somebody. I can't remember exactly who it was, but you said if they could go into a vacuum chamber and survive, you would do it right after. I can't remember.
No, I do it before. I do it now. And that challenge has been out there for 3 years. I said, find me any spacesuit, just loan it to me, any spacesuit from 1969 until now, especially the moon ones, because they all work flawlessly. Nobody ever had a spacesuit problem. And then put me in a vacuum chamber and freaking pull the switch and tell me what happens. Tell me what magical property in that spacesuit stops the vacuum of space, stops a vacuum. It's impossible. I don't care about heating or cooling or oxygen or nitrogen or anything like that. Tell me, Mark, what does that?
Nothing. We can't put you in. We'd have to put in someone like M. Scott Veach, because M. Scott Veach's dad was
I would absolutely do. Well, no, I mean, I put myself out there just to see if I was kind of like bait, but like a fishing line type thing. But no university would call me. No one, do you want to shut me up? Put me in a freaking vacuum chamber. Now, I did say that somebody should go in there with me, some scientist with another suit. But again, it defies the law, as you know, Anthony, the law of thermodynamics, which says that pressure can't exist next to non-pressure without a barrier. But in this case, any soft barrier would absolutely go rigid. Any spacesuit in a vacuum would turn into a parade float and explode. And I think it's also interesting. Sorry, one more thing. I know I ramble a little bit, which is that I think when you type in person in a vacuum chamber or astronaut in a vacuum chamber, the number one search result for a long, long time, and I don't know if I haven't checked it today. You know what it is? It's James May in a freaking G-Force suit from Top Gear, who's, who went to the United States Air Force, and they put him in a little thing, but it's a tethered suit. It's a G-Force suit. It's not a backpack suit. And he was scared to death of being in that thing. Don't blame him.
And also, the guy they put him in the chamber with, he only had a half-face mask on, didn't he? He had goggles and a half-face helmet of some kind, but he had exposed skin. Did you notice? The other guy in there.
But I will look again. I know that when they cranked it up, he went rigid because that's what would happen. I mean, those suits are designed when you're in a cockpit to be completely rigid, because you're not moving around. The space suits don't work like that. They don't work like that. No one will ever question. No one. I put that thing out there. I go, tell me what magical property in that spacesuit stops the vacuum. Tell me, and no one will talk about it. I go, it's in the backpack somewhere. What is it?
You remember Top Gun, right? Where he had, like Top Gun Maverick had the goggles and the visor and all that. If you watch that James May clip again, there's another guy in the vacuum chamber with him, and he's got exposed skin. It's like.
I will.
We'll get it on a playback. You can watch it on a playback. We'll play it after we play. Okay. After you.
Yeah, James May in a vacuum chamber. It's hilarious. And why is he coming up as number one search engine? Because there are no astronauts in vacuum chambers. There should be thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of astronauts in vacuum chambers, and they're not. They're in swimming pools. What's the exact opposite? The pressure goes.
Vomit comets.
Yeah. They're why are they in swimming pools at all? Well, I can tell you why, because that's a great way. They stole that completely from James Cameron in The Abyss from 1989. James Cameron figured out how to shoot underwater to make it look like space. You just fill the top of the swimming pool with tons and tons of small rubber balls, and it makes it perfectly blacked out, and you can shoot space sequences. It's awesome.
You see, they've been mugging us off for far longer.
They have.
I would have even thought. I've got those videos lined up so that when you leave, we can show the audience what we've been talking about.
What else you got?
I've got the Mike Smith one lined up as well. So there was another one as well. I've got a couple of questions in the chat room, Mark, if you would oblige us,
sure.
darling.
Go ahead.
Marie wants to know, does Mark believe that Trump knows it's flat? Mark, do you think Trump knows it's flat?
No, I don't. The reason is because well, first off, you
Warriors,
gotta remember
Warriors out.
the president of the United States is low on the totem pole. He is just a figurehead. He is a talking head. He's basically his own press secretary. There are people. Look, the guy only makes what, 400,000 a year. Sorry, he doesn't do anything. He's there as a target. The true power.
I hear he gives that check back though. I hear he gives that money back. I hear he gives the whole thing. He makes a big deal out of it.
The first rule of power has never changed in the history of anything, which is stay hidden. You can't be overthrown if they don't know who you are. Is the curse of being a puppet master. If you're the puppet master, you can't tell people you're the puppet master, because then you are a target. So having people act naturally is the best thing. I think in the beginning, they told the Apollo astronauts what was going on, and that's why they all completely turned into basket cases. They drank, they didn't do press conferences. They were in rough shape, all the Apollo guys. Everyone after that, I think they treated them no different than spies. They're all military, mostly Air Force. And that is, look, you're going to fake this, and it's above your pay grade to ask why. I think that applies straight down the line. Trump doesn't have to know. Why would you? Why would you tell him? You can tell him that there are things being faked, but you don't have to tell him why. Like people say, well, does Neil deGrasse Tyson know? Why would you tell him? You need him on stage acting as natural as possible. You want him being charismatic. You want him telling jokes. You want him doing his Bill Cosby impersonation. That's what you want him to do. And ruining, put too much, there's an old saying by one of our presidents during World War II, FDR. And he said, only give the public as much truth as they can handle.
That's it.
And so in this case, compartmentalization. Don't tell, less is more in this case. Don't tell these people. There you go.
Mark, just give us a yes or a no. Okay. Is Trump going to be the next president, or
who's president in January, regardless of whether we think it matters?
Oh, that's such a tough question. I'd say yes and no at the same time, because I think it's going to be.
You're on the fence. Come on, I want to hear a definitive one way or the other.
Fine. I will say no, and here's why. He may get his decision from whatever Supreme Court he wants, and he may get all this stuff, but the media is left. The media will spin it in such a way to where even if he wins, they will say he didn't. They will say that. So yeah, honestly, why did Trump get in the first place? Come on, he was never supposed to be president. So, but it doesn't matter. So yes, I think he'll get his decisions, but it won't matter because no one's going to report it. There'll be so few media outlets that'll say that he did it that they'll create this. There's going to be this mass division, even worse than it is now. By the way, we only have one more month until that happens. One more month. Either the inauguration happens or it doesn't. So the clock is ticking. They've got 1 month to make their final moves here, because either if Biden gets inaugurated, well, then you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well said. People are interested to know about the alien thing as well. People are like, what gives with all the alien stuff at the moment?
They can see you right now.
What happened?
I'm right here.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
All right, it happens all the time to us all. Don't worry. What everyone does want to know, what is with all the alien pushing at the moment? What do you think that's all about?
Nothing. I think it's just a distraction. That's all it is. I don't think I've seen the alien stuff get pushed several times a year, every year for a number of years. So I don't think anything of it.
Mark, 22nd, 23rd.
Remy wants to know, as well. Also, when rockets leave NASA near Bermuda Triangle, are those blowing up into the ocean when coming back down, or are they just dying out there? Like
there's that's well known, by the way. There's a booster graveyard. I mean, even the stuff they admit, it's like, any rocket, the engine thing that they don't use is going off into a graveyard, which strategically is a very, very deep place that no one's going to get to. So yeah, they're just dumping that stuff up in the ocean. The better question to ask there is they look at time, why aren't more people looking at the time-lapse photography of any rocket? It goes up and then it goes horizontal almost immediately.
Does the Disney arch, doesn't it? It does the Disney arch.
Yeah, pretty damn close. Yeah,
it does. Jim, is there anything you'd like to ask Mark before he goes?
I still got 5 minutes.
Good.
Yeah. So the people are asking about aliens. What's your views on that? I don't really know what to believe or even know about this.
Do you believe in aliens? Mark?
Yeah, I do, but
aliens?
I do believe in them. But since I got into flat Earth, that view has changed into: do I believe they're from Mars and Jupiter and Venus and all that? No, I don't. Do I think I think they're just older versions of us. They're older versions of I think, our civilization only goes unbroken for 5,000 years, but we know full well that there have been groups that have been here before us. I mean, Ancient Aliens got a few things right in that they are remnants of civilizations all over the place. If you want to look at some really, really cool, funky stuff, get a pair of night vision binoculars off Amazon and get your eyes adjusted and look up in the sky, because the sky is crawling with these things. That challenge was put to me 8-10 years ago. And I bought some night vision binoculars and I thought I was looking at satellites, and and then you all of a sudden follow one and it does stuff that you never thought it would do, like it's lost or it's trying to get out of the way of something. And so, yes, I think there's all sorts of stuff up there, and it's not us. The United States government would love to take credit for everything that's flying around the sky. And it's like, no, these things have been around here way before NASA and the United States government was. Look up real quick. I don't know if I put it in the book, but the 1561 Nuremberg event, the greatest UFO event of all time. Nobody talks about it. Everybody talks about Roswell. No, 1561 Nuremberg, Germany. It's in Wiki. It's fantastic.
Nice one for that. For that. I think that's given us a decent amount of
red pills. I think there's a few clues. Like, I've seen a few films, like when the aliens are really old and they're underground and stuff like that. Like,
they might be absolutely. Yeah. No question.
Subterranean films, what I've interpreted myself, and just from what you've said, I've had like little visions of stuff I've seen in films.
Yeah, absolutely. The underground. I mean, where else would they be? In fact, that what got me into flat Earth was the hollow Earth theory. It doesn't take much to put a civilization underground. Remember, most of us live between sea level and a couple kilometers up. That's a very, very narrow band. And all you need is a big cave, 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers high. Piece of cake.
Mark, quick question.
Yeah.
December the 22nd, 3rd, and 4th, the winter equinox. All the planets apparently are going to line up in a straight line for the first time in something like 7,000 years or something. Symbolic date or just a coincidence and doesn't mean anything? What do you think?
Well, I think there's symbolic dates. Now, whether they're used for the general public or just some secret ritual, I can see, some group, with red candles speaking a language that hasn't been talked about in a couple thousand years, Arubaka, something, their eyes start glowing. Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. It's been such a weird year. Nothing would surprise me. I just think that if something weird happens on December 22nd, 22nd through the 24th,
21st to the 22nd.
I mean, maybe, sure, why not? I mean, we still got a few weeks left in the year, and it's been such a wild year so far. I still think it's going to pale in comparison to next year, but would it be a nice
year, I think, Mark, isn't it?
The what?
I say to everyone, I've been saying it since the start of all this problem. This is the warm up for the Agenda 21 or whatever for next year.
Yeah. The weird stuff is next year. I still think they're going to be hiding some of the stuff inside the vaccine. Some people are going to be dropping and be like, oh, it's nothing to worry about. Because remember, the media not only can they hype things up, they can also downplay things, which is there could be a whole bunch of people dying in hospitals. But if the media doesn't report it, did it actually happen?
Exactly.
And the general public is like, hey, what happened to your cousin? I don't know. He went to the hospital. I had an uncle die relatively recently. I got to throw this out really quick because it just infuriates me, because they say, hey, don't you know anyone that's died? I go, yeah, I do. My uncle. He was 88 years old. He had a stroke a few years back, never fully recovered from that, got pneumonia beginning part of this year, then was treated for the pneumonia at a hospital, discovered he had COVID, then he died. Did he die of being almost 90 with pneumonia and residual stroke symptoms? No, he died of the virus. No funeral. Brilliant.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah, I know.
We've got another question, Mark, from Remy. Remy wants to also know regarding the rockets. It says here.
1 minute. I'll right after this.
Are they shooting them to try and break what we would know as the dome? I'm still on my journey about flat Earth, but I lean 90% towards it, the more I keep coming across new things. What are they doing?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. And this is the last question, by the way. I got to run.
No worries.
What was the
So
question?
with the rockets, are they trying to get past the dome, or this person's about 90% towards it, but they're still very new on their journey about
No. The rockets aren't trying to get past the dome. The only thing that was trying to get past the dome was the high altitude atomic test from 1958 to 1962. That's when you try to get it. If you can't get it through megatons, you ain't getting through it. I think they tried with HARP. I think they've been trying with CERN. Why not? I mean, that's a male thing to do. It's like, hey, here's a wall. Get the cannon. We've been doing this for the better part of 50 years, and right now we're just doing research. Anyway, I got to run, guys. Thank you. It was so fun talking.
Come back on the show soon, yeah?
All right, I will. Have a good one.
Have you on, Mark. Cheers, mate.
No worries. And just like that, he's gone. But we do have a video that we've got lined up right now, so we can play that while everyone gets himself a little juice and gets himself comfortable. We've got about a 3-4 minute video to play here with regards to the Challenger incident. I'm just going to share my audio now. I'm going to pop that Chrome tab on. Warrior, you can get yourself a drink. After this, we're going to play that little one of James May in the old vacuum chamber because I wanted to see that myself, to be fair, to be frank, and to be honest. So without further ado, my darlings, I'm not going to say that again, Riley, don't worry. I'm not going to do it, don't worry. So here we go. I'm going to play it.
Okay, up on the stool there.
Up here?
It's on the shirts and the jackets.
We need the jacket zipped, or you want to leave them? Why don't we zip them up? Because outright, about half-mast. Okay, good.
I don't know where I was looking on that. I think it's just.
The story goes that 7 of the astronauts who died in the 1986 Challenger explosion are alive and well. And the pilot, Michael J. Smith, is a professor emeritus at UW-Madison. Because I live in the Madison area, looking up Michael Smith had been on my to-do list for a while. Of course, you can't just call up and leave a voice message asking him if he's part of an evil scheme to deceive the sleeping masses. A better way would be to find him in person and ask him. So that's what I did. Is Challenger pilot Michael J. Smith alive and well? Take a look at the footage and let me know what you think. Hey there. Hey, sorry to bother you. I was pulling out and I saw you. I just came by to. Are you Michael Smith?
Yeah.
Professor at university?
Retired.
Retired?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just stopped by because there's this room. Are you aware of that? There's a rumor on the internet.
It's not me.
That people are saying.
Yeah, it's not me, obviously. I mean, anybody that looks at my background, looks where I was born, it's not me. I mean, it's interesting that the Michael J. Smith that was the astronaut looks something like me when we were younger, but really not if you really look at facial recognition.
You've never been a pilot, never been in the military?
Nothing
Mike
like
Smith
that.
is one of the best flyers in the world, and he's great to have in the shuttle, and I'm glad to have him aboard as a pilot. So here's Mike. Thanks, Dick. Let me echo what Dick said about it's good to be down here and to be flying a vehicle that we know a lot of folks down here have worked very hard on. We understand it's ready to go, and we're looking forward to going to fly. I'm one of the 3 people on board who's and it'll be my first time to fly. Krista McAuliffe and Greg Jarvis it'll also be their first time, and we're just all looking forward to getting on orbit and getting the secret handshake. I'd like to introduce now Judy Resnick. She's our center seater, and keep sticking an eye on us on the system problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
And I don't respond to the emails I get. I get probably an email, maybe 2 a month.
Really?
And I got one guy that's been really hounding me, and I turned it over to the FBI.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's bullshit.
Okay.
Another crazy theory.
Okay.
But that's not me.
All right.
I'm glad I wasn't him, but he was quite a guy.
Yeah.
But if you look at my career, you look at my CV that's online, all the stuff I've published, all that I've done, it's not even close to what that guy was.
Now, where we are now, you're going to be upstairs.
I'll probably come down and help set up this camera, but
Okay.
I'll be
You'll
back
be
over
over
here
there.
or upstairs.
So if right at the end I could get everybody over here, that would work.
Everybody,
Just have to practice.
everybody could come over if you wanted to. Judy
Yeah.
could come down from upstairs.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. I think, oh, that's gonna be great.
Okay. Yeah, you just sure look alike. It's the same
I
name.
know the facial thing, but that's what we look like. What, 40 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
You're on mute, kidder.
What are the chances? Like, obviously, man's gonna go, it's not me. But come on, there's definitely more to that than meets the eye. But before we go off the subject, because this is relevant, right? Well, as soon as you guys said this, I knew I wanted to show it because I kind of had as soon as he said James May, I was like, oh yeah, that one from Top Gear. I remember this video. This was ages ago. I think this is about like a decade ago. I remember this because my dad showed me it. Like, my dad even had questions about this. So can you just refresh us? Because this is legit. I know my dad's going to be like this right now. Like, go on, talk up. Because this here is when they think they're going to be smart and they don't realize how stupid they actually are. Because there's people like yourself that are happy to pick this apart, like myself, and go, actually, no, because this don't slightly.
You'll have to put it on screen. I've not seen it for about 10 years. I'm doing it off memory.
Let's play it and then we'll dissect it because it's only a few minutes.
Yeah, go on then.
A few minutes. All right. Let's have some of this. Go on. Right. Oh, James May.
In Latimer wants me to prove that I can stay alive with just my spacesuit for protection.
We have Sergeant Johnson and Sergeant Jacobs in there with you today, and so two of our finest, and you got a good chance to meet those guys whenever they were over in the integration room with you. They're going to be right there.
There's an awful lot of people, presumably all to keep me alive, because when all the air's pumped out, this chamber will turn deadly, making some strange things happen.
Is that going to boil? That will begin to boil at around 63,000 feet. So we're going to, and I'll keep you posted on that as we get a little bit closer to it. Okay, we're going to start our rapid ascent up to 75,000 feet now. Roger. And we're going to keep an eye on that glove, which has already expanded considerably since we started. Now, we just passed through 50,000 feet. That's what the Air Force deems as the space equivalent zone. And that's kind of a carryover to back to the old space race days whenever we were trying to kind of set a timeline between us and this. Oh, there it goes.
Let's just be clear. That water isn't boiling because it's hot. It's boiling because the pressure's so low. Without this suit on, my tears and saliva would boil too.
And our glove just popped. So it made it to 70,000 feet.
So far, so good. But things would get a lot more hairy if my cockpit canopy were to fail. Without my suit, such a catastrophic pressure drop would rip apart my lungs. Let's practice that then.
So basically, if you watch the beginning of the clip, you can see that the guy is in there with two other guys with basically Maverick-style, Top Gun-style half-face helmets that you'd see on a Vespa. But they're wearing the goggles that Maverick would wear, a bit like what I'm wearing now. And you can see that they don't leave the room. The door shuts. They're still in there. And then the pressure starts changing. And they've not left. So they're still in the room. So the problem you've got with that is, if that's really a vacuum, A, you don't need a suit because the other guys are not in a suit. Or B, it's not a vacuum. But one of them two statements is true. They both can't be... That man can't be in that vacuum chamber with his exposed skin because his blood would boil. It's just whatever's going on there. It's complete bullshit.
Like
You're
most
on
of the
mute.
stuff on TV.
No, we're not.
So
Yeah, right.
yeah, we see now. So as he's getting it, look at these guys. They both got exposed skin, right?
Yeah.
So watch the door shut.
No gloves.
Can I just ask you? I have got it on mute just now, haven't I? Like,
Yeah, it's
you can't
fine.
hear it.
It's fine.
Right, perfect. Yeah. Talk us through this because this is pathetic.
So now you can see that there's 3 of them in that room, right? And then the door gets closed. Look where the guys are on. Look at his face, his face gear, and the door's shut. Now they're still in there, right? So where the fuck do they go? Now they start changing it, and you can still see him in shot. There he is. He's still in shot.
He had no gloves on, mate.
Where's your turtles, mate?
Where's your turtles?
And there he is again. He's on the right. He's on the right of the pit screen there. So they're inside whilst the vacuum's being created. Now you don't see them. So I don't know whether they're still in there or not, or if they vanished, or if they've been sucked out the exhaust pipe or whatever. But you don't see them anymore. But they were in there a minute ago. So whatever's going on here, it's not true, because if they are in there, they're out of scene. They're out of shot. They can't be seen.
David Blake.
Hold up. That balloon said it's true, though.
No, yeah, that balloon states that his head just popped. Literally.
Yeah. Well, I think we can all agree that them 2 pilots were in there when the doors were shut, and they were in there as the pressure was dropping. Now they can't survive in there if that's a vacuum.
Panic as he was selling the moral panic as he went. Common to news values. The moral panic was all the way through. Awful, deadly. It was all that kind of like really macabre, mild peril stuff going on. So
yeah.
He got a few quid for that anyway.
He would have blown up.
Of course he did.
No, the glove would have blown up.
The glove did blow up. It did. It popped in front of us. Yeah, it all popped in front of us. Shout out
that's
to
what Nathan.
Really Woke Media headquarters here. There's absolute bag. There's about 30 people here. Big up yourselves. Restrictions don't apply in the Really Woke Media Hub. But yeah, we've got a bit of a general consensus here that this is Confitus balls. He looks a bit dazed and confused now, doesn't he? They're like, "You all right, mate?" I don't know. I need to.
Well, to be honest, I'd say that he looks like he's just taken part in a knowing deception, and he doesn't feel comfortable with it. That's what I would interpret his behaviour as.
Yeah,
it's a bit like Neil Armstrong when he came back from the moon, and he was there giving the interview, and the other guys, and they were all sullen as fuck. But the reality is, they've just been on the moon. They should all be ecstatic, but they're all sat there like that. So it's like they all know that they're all in a situation that's total deception, and they've got to play along.
Dodgy is an understatement, I think, for all of the things that pertain to a lot of the topics that we've talked about this evening. Yeah,
it's a bit like when you give a government official a very easy and simple question relating to their own data, and they just dismiss it. You know what I mean? And they're not brazen about it in any way, shape, or form. They just dismiss the whole comment.
Correct.
Like when Matt Hancock was on TV the other day, he was being asked questions. He starts laughing in front of Piers Morgan, and it's like that stupid delight for me. I look at him talking there, giggling away like a school kid on what he's supposed to be responsible for, like the pandemic, and he's giggling, and it's like that's the other the other emotion you get. You either get the sullen look because you know that you're playing along with the deception, or you've got to laugh because it's stupid delight, and it's one or the other, and that's the other end of the spectrum.
Exactly. So I take it you know about them, because Armin Stan needs to know. So you know about gas pressure with a container not being possible then, Riley, do you?
Yeah. The question is, Jimmy, do you realise that to have gas pressure, you've got to have gas, but it's got to be contained, because if it wasn't a container, the gas escapes. Now, no matter how you word it, no matter how you describe it, you can't demonstrate gas pressure without some kind of container, be it dome, container for a cigarette lighter, you name it, you can't demonstrate. And they say that we've got a ball of gas, like a membrane that's not a membrane of gas around the ball that's not fucked off into the vacuum of space. Yet they expect us to believe that that's possible. They can't demonstrate it. They can calculate it as though it's got a container, but they can't demonstrate it. So we've been asking for gas pressure without a container for the longest of times, and they say, we've got a pressure gradient. Okay, well, how do you have the pressure gradient in a vacuum? Because it just goes straight away, instantly almost. It's like, have you ever seen the tanker implode? There's like a railroad tanker, and they remove all the air out of it, so they create a vacuum inside the tanker, and it gets to a point where the tanker just goes and it crunches on it, so it implodes on itself, and that's what happens when you have. And they say that it's the pressure of the atmosphere pushing down on the tanker. But that's what happens when you get a differential. You have pressure pushing down on the tanker in the same way that gas pressure is pushing out into the atmosphere or into the vacuum of space, because they tell us that the sky is a vacuum and we're expected to think that gas pressure won't burst into it. But when you try and have the conversation with them, they're either willingly deceptive and just ignore it, or they just can't see it. One or the other is true. but you can't have gas pressure without a container to house it.
Underground says the Bible mentions the dome numerous times. So
Not
I take
dome.
it that there's general consensus that the Bible wasn't talking about spheres as in planetary
No.
spheres.
The Bible doesn't mention dome. It mentions the firmament, and that's what we see the stars sat in. So it doesn't use the word dome. It says firmament.
Okay.
It's like
the thing what my head thinking about that type of topic while we're on it is the stars not moving and the same stars being relevant every time you look at them. Like if we're spinning around at whatever, that's what made me start thinking.
Yeah, I mean the stars is another thing. Some of the astronauts say that you can see the stars in the night sky when you're in the ISS or on the moon. Other guys say that you can't, and we have no idea. Totally contradictory, but it's worth talking about. Talking about the stars and stuff. Werner von Braun is the German that was captured after the war and instigated into NASA as the head of director of whatever. And on his tombstone when he died in 1977, they put Psalms 19:1 on his tombstone, and that was all it said. It said Werner von Braun, 1912 to 1917, Psalms 19:1, and that biblical reference is always worth citing, because bear in mind that this guy's from NASA, and this guy is everything that is like anti-Christ and anti-creation. For him to have this psalm on his tombstone, it's kind of like the Confessions of the Dead. And it basically says the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. So when someone said, Londerground then said about the dome is mentioned several times in the Bible, it's actually the firmament that's referenced several times in the Bible. But Werner von Braun, the head of NASA, now dead, says that the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. So not only is he acknowledging that God exists and that there is a heaven, the firmament where the stars are placed in, that's proof. So, and I tend to agree with him. I don't know what the stars or the planets are. I know what they're not. They're not gas giants existing in the vacuum of space, because you can't have gas giants existing in the vacuum of space. But if Werner von Braun says the heavens declare the glory of God, he's admitting that there's a heavens or the heavens. He's admitting the glory of God because he uses a capital G, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. It's proof of creation, because whatever the planets are, we know that they're not giant balls of gas. So Jupiter and Saturn are not giant gas balls. They can't be, because you can't have gas pressure in a vacuum, because it all fucks off. It would immediately explode. Yet that's what they tell us that in school is what we're living in. It's complete bunkum.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
It may as well be heaven to me, because all the information I'm hearing now and the lies I've been told about certain things, it may as well have the same relevance as heaven, because I haven't got any substantial information to tell me that these people are wrong, or I'm on the fence with it all.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Depending on where you are with your pursuit of truth, how to come across this information and use your discernment and kind of discern fact from fiction. It's difficult. It's not easy, especially given the speed that we're having to go through things at.
Yeah, and with all the stuff that's going on at the moment, it's of little relevance to me at the moment. Where I live, just how I'm being controlled, and what might be coming in the future, whatever we're living on.
I like what Mawina said. She said, "Why is space black when the sun's there? Like, why is it all dark if the sun's out there? Like, what's going on with that?" It's a good question. There's a lot of good questions. My dad always used to say to me that you shouldn't be able to poke any holes in this at all, and the fact that people can, and the fact that these questions can't be answered easily, is a bit of a smoking gun in its own right, isn't it? To be honest.
One of the best questions that catches everybody out on their side is, like, we're all taught that Newton is what gravity is. Newton's like force of attraction, mass attracts mass. The balls, like planets, attracted each other. That's what Newton tells us, and that's what we were taught in school. But it's only when you get to undergraduate physics, where you're in university and you're learning about what physics is, only at that point do you get told that actually gravity is not a force. Gravity is better defined by Einstein in 1915 in his theory of general relativity. And in that theory of general relativity, he defines and gives us the explanation for the cause for what gravity is. And he literally says that gravity is the effect of the curvature of space-time, and it's caused by the uneven distribution of mass. Now, basically, what that means, it's convoluted, but what that means is that an object flying through space travels in a dead straight line because that's the way things travel. And what he says is that we perceive an arc, which we call an orbit, but it's not actually the planet that's wandering through the sky on an orbital path. He says that space-time curves around the thing. So although the geodesic path that the planet is on is straight, we perceive an arc, and that is the bending of space-time, which only exists in mathematics. But he describes what we call orbits as straight lines that we perceive, in other words, perspective. Yet when you try and explain how Newton's apple falls off the tree using Einsteinian gravitation, you can't do it. It just becomes a joke. Poetic, almost abstract, beautiful, but nonetheless a joke. Now, the problem is we don't get taught that until we go to university at physics undergraduate. So everybody that didn't go to university and didn't study physics at undergraduate level, which is 99.9% of us, all believe that gravity is a force of attraction between masses. But it's not, because Einstein said it wasn't. Yet we don't get taught that in school. If we got taught in school that gravity was not a force, then we wouldn't have an explanation for why things fall towards the earth or go off into the sky, because we'd need another explanation for it. Now, there is one, but we don't get taught it. So because we all think that gravity is a force, even though Einstein said in 1915 that it wasn't, we're all led a lie from basically primary school, and no one realizes it until you start thinking critically. And then all of a sudden, 9/11 didn't happen the way we were told. We didn't go to the moon, and the earth's not a ball.
It's criminal. It's partisan education, and it's criminal. It's criminal. You know it. I know it. Anyone who looks into this for long enough knows that the Ministry of Education is done something worse than any crime. They've taught a model as if it's fact, backed up by propaganda, and they've not given us a balanced opposing view. Not one, you know, not even the geocentric model. Like teaching a model as if it's fact, that's heinous. It's criminal. It's a crime against nature. And nothing can stop us.
What's even more interesting, there's actually a law that makes them do this, where it comes apparent to the children that are in education that there might be an alternative explanation. In the Education Act 1996, section 406 and 407, it states that basically partisan views in a contentious topic cannot be taught to children if the children get presented with facts that are contradictory. And they've got to allow children the opportunity to have and to hear a balanced presentation of opposing views. But we all know that laws don't seem to apply when it doesn't suit. There seems to be too much discretion. There's not equal access to the law for everybody, but there needs to be, because unless that changes, they're going to get taught anything in school. Like you're not allowed to talk about certain topics. For example, the Holocaust. Now, I know that if we talk about that here now, it's just going to get cut off.
Yeah, relax yourself. I was going to say, whoa there. I just heard.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about it.
Like, whoa, let's slow down to a gallop before I see that we get removed, and then stream gives me an notification that says you lot aren't live anymore.
No, I'm aware. I realize that if we talk about it, it'll be removed.
All I'll say is this though on that. There's tattoos going around, right? I'm being very loose with what I'm saying here, but there's certain victims that had certain tattoos with said numbers on. It's funny how those numbers, no one's got a number of anything over 999,000. And if X amount of percentage was supposed to have been taken out, then why have we only got evidence of the first 100,000? That's mad.
Well, all history can be questioned.
No, not the first 100,000, the first 99,000.
It's all what they want to show us, and all to suit them in any way. But
I think the best way to describe it,
being very careful with that one.
Yeah,
even
if you
let's change topic.
Great Plague and all that. There's nothing on it. You can't even find anything. And I got informed by someone that anything after 1800 and something, so copies of originals. So you can't really trust anything that come from a rat. Apparently, does that sound familiar? This has apparently come from a bat. Someone said to me, "Oh, this has never happened before." I said, "This has happened plenty of times in history. Don't worry about that." Yeah. Even if you look at the pictures of the plague and the symbolism around it, the doctors, the weird doctors, and the pits of the people that are pouring them in the pits who had weird outfits on, and that it's very symbolic. It was 1666 as well. That's another thing. There's so much you can pick apart in history and think, nah, why? And there was a war at the same time as well. So that's obviously people not believing the narrative like what's going on today.
I can't believe we're getting requests in the chat room like you're about to do a song. Go on, Do the analemma. Go on, man.
Yeah,
Go on,
there's
do
so
it.
much
Do
you
it.
can
Do it.
question.
Encore.
So much.
Encore. Go on, Riley.
So what we're going to need? Can you get up an image of this, the analemma? I can't even pronounce that word. It's a nightmare. The analemma.
Analemma.
Analemma, that's it. So if you want to put that on screen whilst I'm explaining it, so Jimmy won't understand this, so you'll learn something new. If you were to take an image of the sun at high noon every single day for the whole year, the sun, you'd expect the sun to be pretty much in the same place in the sky. It might move a little bit left, a little bit right, but you'd expect it to be roughly in the same place pretty much every day. But when you actually do it, you can see that it forms a figure of 8, and the bottom half of the 8 is a lot fatter than the top half of the 8, so it kind of resembles a snowman. And what that's telling you is that the sun is closer and further away at different times of the year. Now, when the sun's furthest away is when it's, let's see if we can get the image. So you can see there, you've got the top half, which is the little bit, and then you've got the bottom half, which is the fat bit. One of them is further away, the other one is closer. And when it's further away, that resembles winter. When it's closer to you, that resembles summer. So basically, when it's higher in the sky, that would be the small, so we're looking at, the higher part in the sky is basically summer. And that's where we get high noon from in summer, and that's why we get stronger rays, we get more heat coming from the sun. But when the sun's low in the sky, because it's winter, that's further away. And the reason why it looks a little bit bigger is because of the effects of atmospheric refraction, which is like you're looking through a density gray layer and it's nearer to the horizon. But in summer, it's higher in the sky. In winter, it's lower in the sky, and it's further away from you, and that's why you're getting the higher and lower. Now, the ball earthers say that's the tilt of the Earth. But the reality is, if it really was the tilt of the Earth, well, we would see other effects. But the point is, if the Earth's a plane and the sun's local to us, that is a perfectly equal and opposite interpretation too. Yet they can't even acknowledge that there's an equal and opposite interpretation, and we have to accept that it's tilted the Earth. But there's no evidence that the Earth's tilting. If there was evidence of the Earth tilting, they'd be able to detect it with accelerometers, but they can't. But anyway, without going too much into it, the tilt. Yeah, they say it's the tilt, but the reality is that's an equal and opposite interpretation living on a plane. And obviously, because the way the sun goes round in a circle continuously, right? But the circle itself moves. So as it's going towards the south, that's our winter, and it's their summer. And then the circle starts coming back north again. And then basically it gets back to summer, and it's right overhead, and then it starts going back down again. So it's always doing a circle, but the circle itself is moving. And that's called the ecliptic path of the sun. And the ball earthers say, seasons can't be explained on a plane. They can. They just refuse to accept the explanation as equal and opposite. But it's crazy, man. Everything's explained as an equal and opposite argument, and it's therefore an equivalence argument. It's like there is an equal and opposite argument for everything. But I'll tell you what's an interesting one that we came across recently with Nathan. There's something called the Et Vos effect, which the claim is that if you have a boat traveling east compared to a boat traveling west, one of them's going with the rotation of the Earth and the other one's going against the rotation of the Earth. So basically, one should get heavier and one should get lighter because you're going with the rotation or against it, according to the Et Vos effect. Now, that's necessary in the model because the Earth's turning, and they've got claims that they say, well, this proves it because we can measure it. But if that were true, you can look at boats traversing north to south or south to north, and you can observe why we have the plimsoll line. The plimsoll line is the load line that we have, and it varies depending on whereabouts on the world you are.
Complicated for people that have no idea what you're talking about. Can you send me a link?
Get an image of the
give me a graphic.
Just get an image of the plimsoll line on a boat. Just type in plimsoll line and click images on Google. You'll see it.
All right, cool. Well, carry on talking.
I will do. I'm just delaying a little bit, but right. So here's the thing: the history behind the plimsoll line is this. The English were going through the Industrial Revolution, and they started making boats. Instead of out of timber, they were making them out of steel, but steel is much heavier, but it lasts longer. So instead of making a timber boat, you could now make it out of steel or iron, alloy maybe. But obviously, it's a lot heavier. Now, what was happening was they were building all these steel boats or alloy boats in England, filling them all up with tea to then be sold to the tropical areas like the Caribbean, for example. Filling it all up with tea, shipping it all out to the Barbados or the Caribbean or wherever. And what was happening was the boats started to sink. So they were losing too many boats as they were going towards the tropical waters of Central America. And they couldn't work out why, because they were all getting so far and then they would sink. Now, that's where a lot of the stories from the Bermuda Triangle came up. They say freak waves sink them all and all this. But the reality was, what was going on was the ships were being built and set and loaded in the dense North Atlantic salt water. And that dense North Atlantic salt water is more dense than the tropical waters in and around Central America because of the temperature. So as the temperature increases, the water gets less dense, but the boat stays the same weight. So as the boat's going through into less dense and less dense water, it effectively causes the boat to get lower and lower in the waterline, and it becomes unstable, and then it doesn't take much to knock it over or for it to actually sink. Now, whichever way it goes, but the boat ends up getting lost. But the plimsoll line, you can see it on the image there. You've got she's now got that banner up. I can't read it. Just knock that banner off for us.
Because it is relevant. They're saying the 666, what Mark was talking about. Look, Earth's tilt, those degrees. Where have we seen that before? 666. Go on, carry on.
Yeah. All right, so that image in the middle, can you see the plimsoll line? It's got two sides to it. It's like rungs on a ladder. On the left-hand side, you've got tropical fresh, and you've got fresh. And then on the right-hand side, you've got tropical, you've got summer, you've got winter, and you've got the winter in the North Atlantic. Depending on whereabouts you are in the world, you've got a load. You can only load it so high relative to where you are. Now, the reason for that is because if you notice at the bottom, you've got winter North Atlantic. You can imagine putting more and more weight on, and that would eventually go higher and higher, so that it would become like the lightest one is winter North Atlantic, and then a little bit more load on it makes it a bit heavier, and a little bit more heavier until you end up with the tropical one with the most weight on it. Now, if you're in that area where your tropical water is, you can load it with more because you're only ever going to get more dense water and therefore effectively lighter. But the Eötvös effect claim is the opposite way around. They claim that if you were to go into like the east or the west, your boat would be heavier or lighter depending on east and west travel. But actually, in real world, the plimsoll line debunks that argument because it's got nothing to do with east and west travel. It's all to do with the density of the water. Now, the reality is, if the water is more dense and you're going into it with a heavy freight, and it's more dense that you're going to go into, your boat's going to lift out the water. But that only happens if you're traveling north. If you're traveling south, you're going to get loaded in England. Then you're going to, and that'll be like the lower load line. But then as you get towards your destination in the warmer water, your boat's going to start sinking in the water, and the water line is going to start rising up the plimsoll line. Now, that's okay if you got it loaded at the bottom value, but if you load it to the top value, the boat's going to get lower and lower. Now, if the Earth's supposed to be turning, it means that there should be a centrifugal force throwing the boat up as it gets towards the equator, because it should be throwing it out because of centrifugal force. But in real world, the opposite happens. It's almost as if there's like a gravity pulling the boat down, and it's nothing to do with gravity. It's because the water's getting warmer and the boats are sinking in the water because they're heavier, relatively speaking, than what they were when they left, because the water around it's got less dense, but the boat's densities remain the same. So, I mean, it's even burnt the fuel, so it would be lighter, yet the boat appears to be sinking in the waterline. So the plimsoll line shows that the Earth isn't turning, because if it was, there would be a centrifugal effect that you would see at the equator. But in real world, we see the opposite. We see what appears to be a centripetal force seeming to pull these things down, and it's just not the case. The Eötvös effect is complete nonsense, and it's totally debunked by the plimsoll line. It's a brilliant flat Earth proof.
So there's someone in the chat room that's telling you to learn geometry, mate.
Check geometry. I think. Oh, it's WS. We completely ignore WS. So don't put his name. He's a complete troll. So just don't put his name on, because I don't give him any time at all.
Shout out to the trolls. We got you.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Martin Leaker as well. Crepuscular rays. Do you know how long it took me to learn how to say that without messing up? Crepuscular. I'm so happy.
So go on, get an image. Get an image on for crepuscular rays, right? If you look at
Martin Leaker, right?
Yeah, shout out to Martin.
It's your main sort of topic about flat Earth, Anthony.
There's loads. There's that many. There's loads.
I wanted to ask Mark about that. What was his main one to sell it to people, type of thing?
There's loads. Roxanne, do you want to put a crepuscular ray on so that Jimmy can see it?
Now, Sunshine. Don't you worry, Sunshine. Do it right now.
So basically, if the sun's 93 million miles away, Jimmy, all light rays that hit the Earth, they're all essentially parallel. Now, they're indiscriminately not parallel. I'm not going to argue about whether they're absolutely parallel or not. The truth is, according to their model, at 93 million miles away, the whole horizon will be full of vertical strips full of light, because that's the way the light's coming to us. It's coming to us from so far away, but the sun is huge. It's like however many times bigger than the Earth. All the light rays are hitting the horizon in a parallel fashion. So you would never get these angled sunlights coming from behind the clouds. You can carry these lines back up and create the triangles to pinpoint where the sun is. Now, in real world, that's because the sun's local. But on their model, the sun isn't local. The sun's 93 million miles away, and all the light rays that hit the horizon are all vertical. And because perspective is that all vertical lines always remain vertical. They don't angle. Only the horizontal lines are going towards the horizon. They all meet at a convergence point. But vertical is always vertical in perspective. And we see a perspective view because we've got eyeballs. We don't see a camera view from the side person. We see down the eyeballs, down the barrel of the gun. That's the way our eyes work. All the horizon lights would be vertical, and the ballers just they can't get their head around it. The sun's clearly local, because if it wasn't local and it was distant the way that they say it would be, all of the rays would be vertical strips across the horizon at all times, and they're not.
Honestly, thanks for that. There's a lot of activity going on in the chat room. Massive shout out to Katie and Joe, Woke Realist as well, Martin Leadcar, all of you in the chat room that are going back and forth. Lunderground, T Flip, Lee Brogan as well, Woke Realist, Julietta. Lovely to see you, my darling. Big hugs to you, sweetheart. I like this density explanation. Sleep and Warrior. I really appreciate you going into depth. I know we didn't get Mark for as long as possible, but there's a lot of people that are asking a lot of questions, because there's a lot of people at the moment saying a lot of things. There's a lot of topics getting thrown around at the moment, and people are getting set information left, right, and center. And a lot of people are sharing their appreciation for the information that's being said on the show this evening. I know that for you, you may be going through some things that might be elementary to you, Anthony, but there's a lot of people that are just starting their pursuit of truth with a lot of these obscure red pills. Because like you said, this was something that you kind of didn't.
I didn't really think about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Never really thought about it.
Yeah.
Never really thought about it until obviously I've spent a lot of time with you and other people that talk about it. So I've picked up a lot of things that do sort of make sense to me. So I'm on the fence of it. Like I said, I'll treat it like a heaven type of thing. If it's flat, it's flat. If it's round, it's round. I find out when I go somewhere else. But
Jimmy,
with all the pressing stuff we've got on at the moment and worries of bits and bobs going on, I'm putting it on the back burner myself. But I am willing to receive information, and
I love it. Oh, go on, Riley. Treat us all to this, please.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy. So I'm going to ask you now what's going to happen. What I've got here is I've got a glass of tap water on the left, normal tap water, and I've drank out of it to show that it's normal tap water. It's not a spirit of any kind. It's just water. And on the right, I've got the egg that is. You'll notice that the egg is not at the bottom. It's submerged off the bottom. And what I've done is I've used salt to increase the density of the medium around the egg to create a density gradient that the egg sits on. So the egg sat on a cushion of density, and it's caused by the salt. The warm water and the salt dissolving is creating a barrier for the egg to sit on. Now, what I want to ask you is, higher salinity, higher density. Now, if I pour table salt is more dense than water. So if I pour table salt into this, the ball earth theory would say that the mass below the egg would increase. So therefore, there would be a fractional tiny little bit more attraction, and it would pull the egg down towards it because the mass below the egg is increased, and that would be added to the mass of the earth. That's what their argument would be. But in real world, I wanted to test it. I wanted to see whether or not I could make an acceleration. And I wanted to see whether or not I could make an acceleration by using mass. Because in physics, mass is just a scalar, right? It's just a number. It quantifies how much matter there is in something, or how much mole. If you look at mole, the definition of mole and mass, they're both the same thing. So it's either the amount of substance in a matter or the amount of substance in a liquid. That's the definition. But they say the critical part is that mass itself cannot cause an acceleration because it's just a scalar. It's got no direction. It's got no magnitude. It can't do anything. It's descriptive, but it's not causative. So I wanted to see whether or not I could make mass cause an acceleration. So what do you think is going to happen when I pour the table salt in? Do you think it's going to cause something, or do you think it's going to cause nothing? And if you think something, what do you think it's going to do?
I don't think it's going to do anything.
Now remember that salt dissolves in water, in contrast to salt, in contrast to sand that doesn't. Does that change your position, or do you think that it might have no some effect or no effect?
Well, it might lift the egg up, maybe. I don't know.
So let's press play and see what happens. So I'm just about to get the salt. Now, bear in mind, this isn't like anyone can do this. They can, and you're going to get the same results every time. So long as you get the egg lifted off the ground by creating a density gradient, anybody that does this will get the exact same result every single time. So all I did was I got the salt.
Oh,
and remember, I'm testing.
Is it flat now on the floor? Is it?
No, it's elevated. You can see that the egg's not. Yeah.
So it's going to raise higher, yeah?
Well, it's going to, first thing is it going to move? And if so, which way? On the ball earth model, they would predict that the mass below the egg would increase and therefore attract the egg, because mass attracts mass. The mass of the earth, added with the salt, becomes an attractive force, and it should pull the egg down.
Yeah, straight away up.
Yeah, up, right? Now, that's the complete opposite of what they claim. So what they say to get around that, they say, well, that's because gravity's been pulling on the water, not on the egg. And then you ask them, well, how did gravity know to pull on water and not on the egg? Because surely mass against mass, not mass against medium. Why did gravity change? Why did it become the medium?
Gravity then.
They've got very selective gravity, yeah. But we know gravity is not a force, which is one of the reasons why I did it.
A bit like everything else, all the information we get selective, and so
well, what they do with it, what they do to hide this fact is they tell you that mass is not a force, which it's not on its own. But when you've got two masses relative to each other and they're competing for the same area, which would be the area inside the glass, that tells you that mass itself can cause something to accelerate because they're both competing for the same area. So they don't tell you about relative mass, and relative mass is a cause of an acceleration, and it's demonstrable, it's repeatable, it's verifiable, and children everywhere should be doing it in school because it makes them wonder, well, why does the egg go up, and how does mass make an object move? Because mass isn't supposed to do that. But two massive contradictions, and ball earthers absolutely hate this video, and they just completely they hate it. Because it goes the opposite way.
Learn it for a reason, do they? They don't want kids to learn anything they don't want them to learn. That's why they infiltrate all the information, all the curriculums. They infiltrate literally everything.
Yeah, and even in this video, right, what I did was to make sure that I complied with scientific method. I put all the key points to scientific method on screen. I identified my independent variable. I identified my dependent variable. I even gave my hypothesis, which is here. Oh, gone a little bit too far. So I've got my phenomena, things appear to float, sink, or suspend. Hypothesis is that if I change the medium's density, the egg will move or accelerate, I should have put. Null hypothesis is if I change the medium's density, the egg will not move, because the null hypothesis is always the opposite of what your hypothesis is, to prove that you failed to prove something. And then obviously I identified my independent variable, the density of the medium, because that's what I'm going to manipulate. Dependent variable, the egg's going to accelerate. So I complied with the rule in scientific method, which tells me what to do. But not only did I do that, I gave 10 citations at the start of the video telling you what is the independent variable. It is the variable which the experimenter deliberately manipulates in order to observe its relationship with some other quantity, in this case, the density of the medium and whether or not the egg moves, or which defines the distinct conditions in an experiment. Now, I gave 10 so that nobody could argue about what an independent variable is. It's the thing that I varied during the experiment. It's what the investigator thinks will affect the dependent variable. Now, what they say is, well, gravity. And I'm like, I didn't manipulate gravity. I manipulated the density of the medium. That's the cause. And I demonstrated it. But they can't get out of gravity because they've got to have gravity in there somewhere. So the independent variable is what I think is what I will change in order to provide a result. So I changed something and it caused a result. The independent variable is, yeah, look, University of North Carolina. The independent variable is the antecedent, whereas the dependent variable is the consequent. The independent variable is the variable that is varied or manipulated by the researcher. And the dependent variable is the response that is measured. And so the key point, oh, there we go. The independent variable is the presumed cause. And when you manipulate it, then you establish that it was the cause. Or you manipulate it and you establish that it was not the cause. But the key point is the thing that I manipulate is the actual presumed cause. So when I actually manipulate it and it does something, then I can accept my hypothesis, or I prove that my hypothesis was incorrect. But it's not the thing that they infer instead. So when they say that I poured the salt in and gravity then acted on the medium, I didn't manipulate gravity, because gravity is not the independent variable. Something else was that I added mass to, right? So the independent variable was the thing that I believed caused the effect, and that's the thing I manipulated. But they always infer that gravity did something instead. Well, we know gravity is not a force. It can't do anything, but it's also not the thing that I manipulated. But they insist that I did, and they just won't have it. Their model's bunk, man. It's complete bunk.
Well said. Well said. I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up an amazing show for this evening. I've really enjoyed. Let me pop the camera on. I've really enjoyed. Let me put the camera on. Let me put it on. Why is it not going on? There it is. I've really enjoyed delving into some of the topics we have delved into this evening. Obviously, we know the lockdown situation isn't going anywhere for a minute. The ongoing situation with people going out and protesting across the country, across the world, actually, isn't going anywhere for a minute.
Yeah, we've got another topic before we go.
Yeah, we have one more topic to go through before we go, and we have saved the best for last. And we do hope that this is just as enjoyable for anyone who's missed the live stream this evening and who's watching this on a playback. There's going to be more information and links put into the description below the video. Go for it, my darling.
Just before you get the final bit in, I want to address this. Londerground says, I know that Sleeping Warrior and Bob Nodell have been debating electrostatics against buoyancy. Londerground, we've not. Bob claims that he's open to a discussion and conversation, but he won't actually do it. He claims he'll do it, but he won't actually do it. And he won't talk about it because he gets cornered by scientific method that limits the thing that I manipulated to be the cause. And that stops him from inferring magic fairies did something else. So I've got to correct you there and say that actually we can't debate electrostatics and buoyancy, because although he claims to be open to it, when it actually comes to doing it, he refuses to do it and he runs away like a baller. So I just wanted to clear up that one there. You're on mute.
There's a lot of love and appreciation. Shout out to Joe and Katie. Mwah, massive love to you both. See you on Saturday, my darlings.
Yeah.
And to Liana, massive love to you for tuning in this evening as well. And to Julieta, big love to you, my darling. All amazing individuals who have been out, standing up and speaking out for what's right. This is what I love to see: new names in the chat room, people that aren't, familiar with the show and are maybe just getting into watching it now. We really do appreciate your time. I know that everyone's time is valuable, and the fact that you've been here for the live stream this evening has just been awesome. We are going to try and squeeze in an extra show, but failing that, you will see a lot of content from the show this weekend. Obviously, the show's covering the event that's going on in London on Saturday, 1 p.m. And we will be covering one other destination this weekend that we're not going to actually advertise the fact that we're going to be there. We are just going to turn up and cover as
That's
true
what we do, isn't it?
That's exactly what we do. We turn up.
I've been chucked a bit of a curveball this weekend. I've got to have my son on Saturday now, but I'm hoping my dad's going to come through and look after him for a couple of hours.
Big up, Big Jim. Big up, Big Jim. Big up, Big Dad. Well, no,
Big Mick.
Big Mick.
Yeah.
All right.
Whatever you want to call him.
Big up, Dad.
Yeah, big up, Dad.
Big up, Dad.
But yeah, I'm sure he will. So yeah, I can slip down there for a couple of hours and cover it with you.
Yeah, perfect. And then there's Monday as well.
Yeah, Monday you got outside Parliament.
Yeah. Do you know what time that is off the top
12 o'clock.
Yeah, there will be information that we put on the website as well, www.TheReallyWokeshow.com, which you can see going that way at the bottom of the screen there. You can find all the show's exclusive content, chat rooms and forums. There's a host of different forums there, from Save Our Children, mental health, well-being, law, different regions of the country, protests, rallies, all sorts of information. There's a chat room, an ongoing chat room, where you can see loads of posters for loads of events that are going on across the country. So we don't need to go over there.
We're in the process of getting some more links and stuff on the website. It's just we've got quite a lot to get through, haven't we? Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah,
it really is.
Trying to do shows, go to events, look after children, God knows what else.
And we're also in the process of uploading the monumental day that went down in Manchester on the 6th of December. Sleep and Warrior, you were there. Myself, I was there. Haley was there as well.
I was gutted I missed that one.
No, mate. Don't worry. But you sent us. We did well.
Yeah,
we did well. We did really well. So that is in the process right now of uploading to the website. If you sign up to the website for free, just using an email address, you get access to all of the content that you would not otherwise get access to via Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, because Facebook and all of the other big tech companies keep censoring it and taking it down. So we're just having to put it on the website. So we will put a small kind of like maybe 4 or 5 minute video on YouTube with a little bit of a summary about the content, but then we'll be signposting you to the content, because the website is the home of the show. That is where all of the show's content is. Whether you're subscribed on Facebook just now and you're watching us on Facebook and you're like, where can I see more of this? Go to the website, sign up. If you're watching us on YouTube, you will be watching us on one of the backup channels. If you're watching us on the one that has about 900 and something subscribers, please make sure you subscribe to that channel. Otherwise, you won't see a live stream through YouTube from the Really Woke Show at the weekend. End of story.
You will actually. We've got a little backup plan, haven't we?
Oh,
yeah, I have. But
for
don't
YouTube.
worry about that. No, not for YouTube. But
yeah, for
something
YouTube,
else.
we've got a problem. So
Yeah,
for the
YouTube's
YouTube
got a problem.
subscribers, we need you to tell a friend to subscribe to the one that's got 900 and something subscribers, because currently my main YouTube channel has been put on a community guideline strike for the next 2 weeks. So I will not be able to post, upload, live stream, or do anything on that channel for 2 weeks. There will be a multiple set of live streams on Instagram. So make sure you go and check out the Instagram link below in the description and subscribe to those Instagram accounts, because you will see a live stream on those. But yeah, Saturday, 1 p.m. London. Please check out the social medias. That's where the adverts are. So without further ado, if there's anything that anyone doesn't or does want to say it now or forever hold your peace. I want to personally thank the people that without your help, the trip at the weekend would not have been possible. You know who you are. There is a select few amazing individuals that without the selfless inputs of yourselves, I would not have been able to be out on the streets of Manchester. I wouldn't have been able to interview Paul Boys. Shout out to Paul Boys for all of the efforts that you put in. Shout out to Stand Up Manchester, because what I witnessed that day was like nothing I've ever seen in my life, mate. I mean, you've seen the footage,
That's
right?
brilliant. Yeah, no, I was talking to you throughout the day, and you was telling me how great it was. It was. I was just watching the live streams and stuff.
Yeah.
But big up to them, and they're going again this weekend in Manchester again. So we look forward to seeing that. And
well done. And other than that, Sleeping Warrior, is there anything you want to say before we close down? And you're on mute, just in case you didn't know. Is there anything you want to say?
I just want to echo what you just said then. It's true when she says that she got to Manchester based on donations. That's absolutely true. I know that we probably shouldn't say the people's names, so I'm not going to say the names because I don't know whether they want to or not. But had it not been for people donating this like significant amount of money, it wouldn't have happened. But what I need to say is this. We tried something new in terms of like something a little bit different in the video. Just look for the special effects because it's not like Hollywood, but in terms of video and stuff, videography, I think it's like upper level now. So watch for the special effects because I think they're excellent.
Yeah.
And that's on the website, right?
Yeah.
Is it uploaded now? Yeah.
It's currently uploading, so it will be uploaded within the next hour or so. So definitely by the time you wake up in the morning, it'll be there. So I would strongly suggest you sign up to the website. The link for the website is in the description below. Just click on there, sign up with your email address and bookmark it, and you will get a notification when we upload a new piece of content. There are at least a couple of bits of content uploaded per week. And so far, I think there's like 3 pages on the homepage anyway. There's like 3, but it's like a little like mini video server where you've got like a good month or so of content to go through. Of all the different events. So yeah, other than that, I've just about wrapped up in case there's anything I've forgotten.
Are you saying
Manchester, get out there, any other city that's anything's going on, go and support these people.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to go and support them, advocate for them online or do whatever you can. These people are standing up for you at the end of the day. And without people asking questions, we're only going to get told one thing. So that's it, really.
Roxanne, are you saying that your new video is going to be released on your website before it goes on YouTube?
It doesn't go on YouTube ever.
Oh, so the video will be exclusive to the website.
You know what? I've lost count of the amount of videos that are on my website now that are just not on YouTube at all.
So basically, what that means is if you want to see the latest video, you can't see it on YouTube.
Oh. You can't. Well, unfortunately, because I mean, unless you want me to get this one community guideline strike, go on. Let's just suicide the channels. Let's just keep uploading and keep getting those community guideline strikes. Shout out to Goddess Nut as well. We're all having a certain amount of issues, especially when we're not just doing a general overview. The speeches, the in-depth interviews with speakers and organizers and stuff like that. We're like I can't speak for you, Goddess Nut, so I won't. I'll just speak for myself. I'm getting community guideline strikes when I'm just uploading it as private. I'm just going private, a little bit primitive, like trying to think. No, strike. So yeah, happy days with the big tech companies.
We're a dying trade, aren't we? The thinking for yourself, the truth, or a second opinion.
Local experimentalist and immortal aliens as well. Massive shout out to you as well. Big love and respect to everything that you're doing out on the streets as well, working tirelessly to bring truth and transparency to all of you internationally about what's going on across the country. So massive shout out to you, my darling. And to Ninja Man, and to, yes, you can say that in a second, 1 second. Kimmy Spreadborough, my darling, hope everything's all right with you and Bob. Big love and respect to you, my darling. Jax as well. Julietta, sweetheart, massive love and respect to you. Anteliana, Coffee Paul as well. Woke Realist. I'm loving Just Joe's interactions. You're getting me gassed, bro. All the gang, all the gang. Love that.
Can I just say, I agree completely with this guy's comment. Don't just research whether or not the Earth's a ball or not. Go out, measure it, observe it for yourself, and then wonder why the fuck we can see so far. Because there's only one explanation, and it's not bendy light. We don't see in curves. We see in straight lines. We see shit we should not be able to see. Get out there, observe it yourself with your own two eyes or your own P900. He's right. It's really easy. We're not living on a ball. So shout out to the troll.
And I don't know, Owen, a lot of people are messaging me saying they're literally just getting their notifications now that we've been going for 2 hours almost and 15 minutes. Only people are getting notifications.
The change of channel hasn't helped either, has it, about the main channel? So
Yep. Brilliant. I look forward to seeing you there, my darling. We'll see you there. We'll definitely be there on Saturday and on Monday as well, covering everything that's going on.
And somewhere else, a little surprise.
Somewhere else, a little surprise in the middle. Somewhere else in the middle.
That we won't mention until we go.
I'm not going to mention until we get there.
Yeah.
But they know. They know.
They know.
They know we're coming. They know we're coming. So yeah, other than that, my darlings, massive love and respect to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Really Woke Show today. As I said, there will be a lot of content over the weekend. There'll be even more if more of you subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're watching the one that's got about 900 subscribers, this is a backup for the backup. There's also another backup that's got about 70 subscribers. There's another backup that's got about 2 subscribers. Then there's the Facebook page. And if you're watching any of those, make sure you go into the description and make sure you're connected to our Instagram, social media. I've got my Twitter there as well, so that I'll put bits and pieces for the show on there. But ultimately, you need to subscribe to the website, www.TheReallyWokeshow.com. Sign up for free. Registration is free. You just need your email. Sign up and you will have access to all of the content, all of the lives, all of the everythings, all of the chat rooms, all of the forums, all of the good stuffs. Oh, there's also a links page with 3 websites that are like mega red pill rabbit holes. So if you've got a little bit of time and you want to go red pilling, jump onto the links page.
We'll keep updating it as well. It's quite fresh, so we're just getting around to get.
What did that comment say? I missed it. What did it say?
Luke Kennedy said WS wears a mask. Oh no, Ninja Man said WS wears a mask, and I just had to say, yeah, he definitely does wear a mask, even when he's driving it alone in his car. He's one of those idiots.
I can't stand those kind of idiots. Can you? Until next time. Adios. Bye.